Chapter 1339. Lung Hanja and Mu Ying knew each other, and Lung Hanja was the son of Mu Ying's parents. Ever since he was young, Lung Hanja liked Mu Ying and had always been by Mu Ying's side, protecting her and protecting her. About 8 or 9 years ago, Mu Ying accidentally got into a car accident and was declared dead. However, in the morning hall, Lung Hanja remembered that a crazy and perverted doctor suddenly said that Mu Ying wasn't dead. Then, the funeral ceremony didn't take place that day. A few days later, Mu Ying was indeed resurrected. However, ever since that day, Mu Ying's eyes were only cold. Even the way she looked at him was cold, without any warmth. Until today, Lung Hanja still secretly liked Mu Ying. Even when he called out to her, her reply was as cold as a stranger's. Returning to reality, Lung Hanja had just pointed at the seniors who had come with him when a delicate figure suddenly rushed over from the side. Lin Shuya flew over to a boy standing beside Lung Hanja, who looked thin but was actually very strong. Lin Shuya grabbed the boy's hand in front of everyone and shouted happily, "Cousin, you're finally here? Hee hee." When she shouted this, Lin Shuya's voice was very loud, as if she couldn't wait for everyone in the world to know that this boy was her cousin. The surrounding students were quickly attracted by Lin Shuya's shout, especially when Lin Shuya showed off her cousin before. Her cousin was an expert in Taekwondo, Sanda, and Judo. When the surrounding students heard the shout, they naturally turned their heads to take a look. Seeing this, Lin Shuya turned to look at Yun Jian smugly. "Now you have nothing to say, right?" Lin Shuya raised her chin proudly. "Han Ming, is this your cousin?" A boy standing beside Lin Shuya's cousin laughed and glanced at Lin Shuya, then asked Lin Shuya's cousin. Han Ming was Lin Shuya's cousin's name. Yes. Han Ming patted Lin Shuya's shoulder and laughed loudly. His face was in high spirits, showing the attitude of a winner in life. Yun Jian and Lin Wan stood at the side and were blatantly ignored. Today, Yun Jian was wearing ordinary clothes. In addition, she was sitting on the cement stone. In order not to steal the limelight, she deliberately lowered her head and didn't let others see her face, so naturally, she was ignored. Just as he said this, he suddenly saw a farmer limping over here in the distance. He ran to the instructors who were standing not far away from Yun Jian and begged for help. "Officer, officer, help," he said. "There was a wild boar as big as 2 people. We've never seen such a big wild boar. Several villagers have already been injured. Officer, please save us." The village was a village, and a village was a village. When the instructors heard this, they hurried over. One of the instructors frowned and turned to look at Lung Hanja. "Hanja, you and your team leaders come with us. With your current strength, you should be able to help a little." "Yes." Lung Hanja and the others quickly responded. Hearing that there was a wild boar as big as 2 people, the surrounding students were dumbfounded. "Ying, I'll go. I'll be back soon." Lung Hanja turned to look at Mu Ying and said. Just as Lung Hanja and the others were about to turn and follow the instructors, a girl's voice rang out. "I'll go too." Lung Hanja and the other seniors who were leading the team, as well as the surrounding students, were all stunned. They then turned to look at Yun Jian, who spoke. "You're a girl, so stay where you are. This is not something you can handle with your strength." Lung Hanja glanced at Yun Jian and said, "That's right, don't be in the limelight. Hee, someone like you." Lin Shuya seized the opportunity and rushed to scold Yun Jian. Chapter 1340. Mu Ying had always been cold and distant in front of Lung Hanja and the others ever since she was saved by the crazy doctor from a car accident 8 or 9 years ago. Sometimes she would even sit in a corner with her head lowered and stare at the ground with her dark eyes. No one could guess what she was thinking about. After that, Mu Ying had been acting strangely. She had always been quiet in front of others. She was quite understanding in front of Lung Hanja. Today, when she heard Lung Hanja and Lin Shuya questioning Yun Jian's strength, what Mu Ying said in front of Lung Hanja and the others was the most she had said in the past few years. Therefore, Lung Hanja and the others were stunned. What shocked Lung Hanja and the others even more was what Mu Ying said. "What, Ying, what did you say?" She She survived in the Amazon forest for 6 months with her bare hands? Lung Hanja was stunned. Lin Shuya was stunned. All the students around them were stunned. Even the instructor who was accompanying the farmer to the wild boar stopped in his tracks. Everyone looked at Yun Jian in shock. Looking at Yun Jian's skinny frame, they were stunned. The Amazon forest was the forest with the most species in the world. At the same time, there were all kinds of dangerous creatures in the Amazon forest. Just thinking about it was enough to know how dangerous it was. If a normal person entered the Amazon forest, they might not even survive for 3 days. Not to mention 6 months. These 6 months did not mean that one could stay in the Amazon forest and not encounter any dangerous creatures. Then, one could count the days. For 6 months, one had to eat every day and face all kinds of venomous snakes and beasts. Yun Jian survived there for 6 months? How is that possible? How could she survive in the Amazon forest for 6 months? How old is she? And she? Lin Shuya tried to find words to refute Yun Jian's prowess, but as she spoke, her words became incoherent. Cousin, say something. Even an expert like you who knows Taekwondo, Sanda, and Judo wouldn't dare to go to such a place, right? She's a woman. How could she? Lin Shuya didn't want Yun Jian to be the center of attention. She was anxious to find any words to deny Yun Jian's power. She even brought the topic to her cousin, Han Ming. You girls shouldn't talk nonsense. The Amazon forest isn't a place where you can go as you please. At your age, I'm afraid you don't even have passports, right? You can't even leave the country without a passport. I'm afraid you haven't even left the country before, right? So don't talk nonsense. Han Ming also had a strong desire to show off. He didn't want to see someone stronger than him. Not to mention that the other party was a girl. After hearing Han Ming's words, the people around her seemed to suddenly understand. Was it Mu Ying herself who was bragging about Yun Jian? How old were they? He probably doesn't even have a passport now, right? Moreover, they were all ordinary students who had graduated from middle school. How would they have the time to stay in the Amazon forest for 6 months? Most importantly, would a normal person run into the Amazon forest like a crazy person? This was simply an impractical thing. Yun Jian ignored these people's words. She walked straight to the farmer. Mu Ying didn't bother to say anything else. She followed Yun Jian. Lin Wan was stunned for a moment before she followed with her long legs. You're talking nonsense, aren't you? You fantasized that you stayed in the Amazon forest for 6 months. Who doesn't know about this fantasy? Seriously, whoever believes you is an idiot. Seeing this, Lin Shuya thought that Yun Jian and Mu Ying were exposed by her and her cousin, so they ran to the side in embarrassment. Just as she thought this, she saw Yun Jian walking to the farmer who was standing beside the instructor. Grabbing the farmer's collar, Yun Jian pulled him out and told him coldly in front of everyone else, "You're the one who's being bullied by me." Chapter 1341. Yun Jian was indirectly accusing the farmer of forgetting his companions who were still in danger because of other things. Everyone was stunned. Just now, everyone thought that Yun Jian would explain something in the face of Lin Shuya and Han Ming's doubts. After all, boys and girls in puberty didn't want to be refuted by anyone. But Yun Jian didn't. Not only did Yun Jian not do that, but she even walked over and grabbed the farmer's collar, giving him a simple lesson. The farmer was stunned by Yun Jian's words. Then, he quickly reacted. His companions were still in danger, so the farmer scratched his head and quickly led the way. Here. Yun Jian let go of the farmer's collar. She didn't even look at the group of senior instructors and students standing behind her. She just walked forward and followed the farmer. Mu Ying also followed Yun Jian's footsteps. Lin Wan shouted, "I'm going too," and also strode forward. "We're going too." Standing in place, the senior instructors from all over the country were stunned. They were shocked. They weren't even as conscious as a new girl in high school. On the other side, the matter of the wild boar attacking people was not over yet. They actually stood in the same place because of the shocking news. They were stunned silly. The senior instructors chased after her, and so did Lung Hanja and the others. "Hey, you're all going. I'm going too." Lin Shuya was still unwilling to see Yun Jian in the limelight in front of everyone. She paused twice and then chased after her. So many people had gone, and there were instructors protecting them. No matter how dangerous it wouldn't involve them. Thinking of this, the students who were standing in place all ran over. There was a hillside near Banqiao village. In the depths of the hillside was a forest, and outside the hillside was a flat land. Originally, this place was very quiet. The village would often gather farmers and go into the mountains from here to cut firewood. At this moment, there were at least a dozen farmers standing there. At this time, each of them was holding a hoe in their hands. Directly opposite the dozen farmers, a big and fat wild boar the size of 2 adults was letting out a muffled howl. It looked like it would pounce on the farmers at any time. The wild boar's hair was gray and black, which was completely different from domesticated pigs. Domesticated pigs weren't aggressive, but wild boars could attack people. If one looked carefully, one of the dozen farmers were already injured. Why isn't Old Wong back yet? We can't hold on any longer. A farmer, who had just been bitten in the stomach by a wild boar, curled up in pain, shouted, "What should we do? This wild boar is too strong. Even with more than 10 of us, we can't suppress it at all." Someone shouted again. However, if one were to look closely, this wild boar, which was as big as 2 people, was also slightly injured. Its abdomen had been slashed, and blood was gushing out. Why is this beast so difficult? Even with more than 10 of us, we can't suppress it. Someone shouted hatefully. Oh! Just then, the wild boar opposite them roared and was about to launch its final attack on the dozen farmers. "F***, we're finished," someone shouted in despair. At the same time, he held the hoe in his hand even tighter. Chapter 1342. This clear and beautiful female voice seemed to have a bit of magic, causing everyone present to be stunned. One by one, they were affected by this voice and all stepped to the side, making way for her. It was also at this moment that a figure as fast as lightning shuttled through the dozen of farmers, heading straight for the wild boar that was the size of 2 adults not far away. Heavens, that's a little girl. She's going to die. There are so many of us, but we're no match for that wild boar. Little girl, come back. Come back. When the farmers saw that the newcomer was just a little girl in her teens, they all shouted in panic. A group of people rushed over from afar. They were the instructors, Lung Hanja, Lin Shuya, and the others. Crazy, crazy, this little girl is crazy. Save her. Come with me to save her. When the instructors saw the size of the wild boar, one of them took the lead and rushed over. Looking at the faces of these instructors, each and every one of them was extremely gloomy. These instructors were all senior instructors from all over the country. Naturally, they were different from ordinary instructors. Therefore, the instructors quickly reacted and chased after Yunjian. Who asked her to be so arrogant? I think she should just die in the wild boar's hands. How dare she try to harm our instructors? Shameless, Lin Shuya casually said angrily. Ming, control your cousin. Don't spout nonsense. When Lung Hanja heard Lin Shuya insult Yun Jian in such a tone, he knew that Yun Jian was special to Muing. Lung Hanja and Han Ming were friends. Both of them were members of the Min City Military Academy's student union. Lin Shuya was Han Ming's cousin. Lung Hanja didn't know Lin Shuya, but he was very familiar with Han Ming. Therefore, under such circumstances, Lung Hanja turned to look at Han Ming and said, Hey Zhou, it's my cousin's mouth. I can't do anything about it. When Han Ming heard this, he helplessly waved his hand at Lung Hanja. Slap! Before Han Ming could finish his words, a sharp slap sounded. This slap was directly aimed at Lin Shuya's face, and she was thrown to the ground in front of everyone. Lung Hanja and Han Ming didn't even have time to react. By the time she reacted, Muing had already warned Lin Shuya coldly and solemnly. My hands are stained with blood. If I hear you say anything bad about her again, I don't mind making you one of the dead souls under my blade. Muing had killed a lot of people. Although she didn't kill as many people as Yun Jian, she had lived for 9 years in an Han organization. 9 years old meant that Muing had been in an Han for 4 years. To be able to survive in an Han for 4 years, he must have killed a lot of people. In her previous life, Muing was 1.5 years older than Yunjian. Mu Ying's current body was smaller than before, but it was exactly the same size as Yun Jian's current body. Otherwise, according to Mu Ying's actual age, she should be 18.5 years old now. Mu Ying's strength was very fierce, so Lin Shuya's heart jumped fiercely. However, Lin Shuya was still angry. Lin Shuya was about to stand up and curse Mu Ying, saying, "It's useless for you to lie to me." But she was suddenly shocked by a figure in the distance. Yun Jian pulled out an ordinary butterfly knife from her small bag in front of the instructors, farmers, and the students who came later. She held the butterfly knife in her hand and ran towards the wild boar nimbly. Seeing this, the wild boar also ran towards Yun Jian. The two figures came and went, and the people in the distance couldn't help but hold their breaths. Yun Jian ran past the wild boar, so fast that the people in the distance couldn't even catch a glimpse of Yun Jian's figure. The people didn't even see Yun Jian's movements clearly. She had already flashed past the wild boar and stood behind the wild boar. After that, she gently threw the bloodless butterfly knife back into her small school bag. Everyone was surprised. That wild boar hadn't been killed yet. How did she out? Just as everyone was thinking this, the wild boar suddenly howled and then fell to the ground in front of everyone's eyes. When everyone came to their senses, they all stared with their eyes wide open. Her knife, her speed, was actually faster than the speed at which the wild boar spat out fresh blood after being stabbed in its vital parts. Wherever the knife passed, there wasn't a single trace of blood on the tip of the knife. How fast must one's knife skills be to achieve this? Was she really just an ordinary female student? At this moment, even the senior instructors who were trying to catch up and stop Yun Jian stopped in their tracks, dumbfounded on the spot. Chapter 1343. The instructors were all senior instructors in the country. They had trained countless students, and they had even brought the students to the field training camp for military training many times. When they had time, military schools like high schools and universities would often organize students to participate in activities such as survival in the wild. The ones who led the students to participate were all senior instructors present. With the addition of the word senior, they were a little different from the usual military training instructors. Since the senior instructors began their military training career, countless things had happened. There were students who couldn't stand the military training in the field training camp and cried and shouted that they wanted to go home. There were also incidents similar to wild beasts attacking students. But which one of these incidents wasn't resolved by the instructors themselves? But this little girl in front of them? This little girl in front of them used a butterfly knife and killed this wild boar that even a dozen farmers couldn't kill. Not only that, she killed the wild boar with a single slash. The speed at which she twirled the blade was so fast that even the blood on the wild boar's body didn't splatter on the blade. What kind of speed was this? What kind of person could reach this level? The instructors had never seen such terrifying knife skills in a person, let alone a person who could use such terrifying knife skills. She was just a female student. Wow. Oh my God. Yun Jian, you're too cool. From today onwards, I'll be your #1 fan. Lin Wan clapped and screamed on the spot. On the other side, Yun Jian turned her body slightly, her sharp eyes seemingly reflecting a powerful glint. Then she smiled at Lin Wan and Mu Ying. Lung Hanja and Han Ming, who were standing behind the instructors, were extremely shocked. The students who followed them were also stunned, and their mouths were trembling in shock. As for Lin Shuya, she was embarrassed as much as she doubted Yun Jian's strength. I thought this wild boar would be strong, but I didn't expect it to be so weak. Yun Jian put away the butterfly knife and walked towards Mu Ying with light steps. Others might not know, but how could Mu Ying not know? Yun Jian didn't want to be in the limelight. In other words, Yun Jian came to the military training today because she wanted to improve her strength. The improvement of one's strength was not something that could be achieved by just talking or practicing in private. That required actual combat, survival in the jungle, and experience. When she heard that there was a wild boar as big as 2 people, Yun Jian became restless because she wanted to kill this wild boar and increase her strength in the process. But he didn't expect this wild boar to be so weak. Hearing Yun Jian's words, The surrounding farmers all lowered their heads in shame. Did she just say that this wild boar couldn't withstand a single blow? Just now, they were forced to the point where they couldn't fight back by this wild boar, wasn't it? Humph, relying on his little bit of ability to start showing off again. Lin Shuya was not reconciled this time, and began to speak in a low voice again, but this time, Lin Shuya did not dare to speak too loudly. After all, Yun Jian had real strength. Mu Ying and Yun Jian ignored Lin Shuya. Mu Ying's red lips curled up slightly, and she walked towards Yun Jian. Under the surprised gazes of Lung Hanja, Han Ming, and the others, she spoke to Yun Jian again. Then after the military training is over, shall we go to the Amazon forest again? As she spoke, Mu Ying was already standing in front of Yun Jian. She smiled slightly, and then seemed to have thought of something, and said, "Let's go and see that old man on the way. Without that old man's help, I wouldn't be where I am now." Yun Jian and Mu Ying were thrown into the Amazon forest together by an Han organization, and both of them survived in the Amazon forest for 6 months each. Yun Jian relied on her own strength to survive. Mu Ying was almost bitten to death by a poisonous snake, and when she was about to die, she was saved by a strange old man who was stationed in the Amazon forest all year round. Ordinary people did not even dare to spend the night in the Amazon forest, but that old man lived in the Amazon forest for 40 to 50 years. Mu Ying mentioned this to Yun Jian before, and although Yun Jian had never heard of that old man, she really wanted to meet him. Now that Mu Ying mentioned it again, Yun Jian smiled. "Sure, after the military training is over, we'll go back to the Amazon forest for a walk." At this moment, Yun Jian and Mu Ying's words were undoubtedly the focus of everyone's attention. Lung Hanja and the others were dumbfounded when they heard Yun Jian and Mu Ying make it sound so easy to go to the Amazon forest. Everyone was stunned. After Lung Hanja reacted, he quickly said, Chapter 1344. Lung Hanja was truly concerned about Mu Ying. Lung Hanja had fallen in love with Mu Ying since he was 7 or 8 years old when he first saw her. Mu Ying was kind to him when they were young, although she did not show any signs of liking him. Even so, Lung Hanja still liked Mu Ying from the bottom of his heart. However, ever since Mu Ying's car accident, Lung Hanja could not see through Mu Ying. Lung Hanja and Mu Ying's parents were family friends. They grew up together and could be considered childhood sweethearts. However, Lung Hanja had always been secretly protecting Mu Ying and secretly liked Mu Ying. The reason why Lung Hanja did not believe Mu Ying's words about going back to the Amazon forest was because he had been protecting Mu Ying since they were young. To put it bluntly, even if Mu Ying went to the toilet, Lung Hanja would know when she went to the toilet. He just did not say it out loud. As for Mu Ying going to the Amazon forest, he had never seen it. He had never seen Mu Ying go abroad. Moreover, Lung Hanja would never think that Mu Ying was no longer the Mu Ying of the past. Lung Hanja knew that he liked the current Mu Ying. He liked her so much that he was willing to hide his love for her and not let her find out. He was willing to protect her secretly. Mu Ying frowned when she heard Lung Hanja's words. She knew that Lung Hanja liked her. However, she could not let go of anyone and had never let go of anyone. Perhaps it was because of her childhood experience that she could not love someone boldly like a normal girl. At least, she could not love him now. "It's none of your business, it's my business." Mu Ying was still smiling at Yun Jian, but when she looked at Lung Hanja, her face instantly turned cold. Seeing this, Lung Hanja clenched his fists. His heart turned cold, but in the next second, he said to Mu Ying seriously, Ying, you can go if you want, but take me with you." If she wanted to go, he wouldn't object. But if he wanted to go with her, then even if she was in danger, he could protect her. He might not be that powerful, but he would protect her even if he had to give up his life. "It's up to you," Mu Ying said indifferently. "Ha ha, ha ha." Right at this time, Lin Shuya's laughter suddenly sounded. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. She gently turned her head and saw Lin Shuya holding her abdomen, laughing so hard that she couldn't stand straight. When the people around heard Lin Shuya's laughter, they all looked over. At this time, Lin Shuya had finished laughing. She looked at Yun Jian. The hatred in her eyes could be seen by anyone. However, Lin Shuya looked at Yun Jian. She said to Yun Jian very mockingly, "Still want to go shopping? Did you hear what she said just now? She said she was going to go shopping in the Amazon forest. Ha ha ha. Does she think the Amazon forest is her home? Shopping. I'm dying of laughter." Also, Yun Jian, do you really think you're invincible just because you killed a wild boar? Let's not talk about how many talents there are in the world. There are plenty of talents in Country Z. Do you think you're invincible just because you killed a wild boar? I'm dying of laughter. Haha. Do you think you're the leader of an international assassin organization like those movies? Do you think you have countless assassins and secret agents working for you? Chapter 1345. Lin Shuya's laughter infected almost all the students. However, after hearing Lin Shuya's words, the surrounding students felt that it was indeed reasonable. That's right, it's just killing a wild boar. There are many powerful people in this world. We are still young, so we can't be so conceited. The little follower standing next to Lin Shuya immediately raised his head and agreed loudly. After hearing Lin Shuya's words, especially her sentence, "Do you think you have countless assassins and secret service agents working for you?" Yun Jian's cold lips curled up slightly without anyone noticing. Yun Jian ignored Lin Shuya. "You can't say that. This little junior is really capable. At least, she killed that wild boar just now. This is an ironclad fact. In short, I believe what she said just now." Just when Lin Shuya was a little unconvinced, a slightly more mature female voice sounded. Hearing this, even Yun Jian couldn't help but turn her head to look. She saw a girl in her late teens walking over. The girl was wearing the same military training camouflage uniform as Lung Hanja and the others. Her tall and slender figure was wrapped in the camouflage uniform, and she looked enchanting and charming. The girl was also good-looking. Even though she was wrapped in a loose uniform, one could still see her slender figure at a glance. The girl walked over. Her face looked amiable. She smiled slightly, giving off the feeling of a gentle big sister. "Senior Lingling?" Lin Shuya was dumbfounded when she saw the girl speaking up for Yun Jian and walking toward them. She glanced at the girl blankly before asking, "Senior Lingling, didn't you already refuse to return to school early to lead the military training for the freshmen?" Han Ming, who was standing next to Lin Shuya, was obviously very familiar with the girl who suddenly appeared. He opened his mouth and asked. The girl who was called Senior Lingling was called Wen Peeling. She was a senior in Min's City Military Academy. Like Lung Hanja and Han Ming, she was also a member of the Min City Military Academy's Student Council. Lung Hanja was the president of the Student Council, and Wen Peeling was the vice president of the Student Council. Although they weren't in the same grade and class, Lung Hanja, Wen Peeling, and Han Ming often met at the student union meetings. As for Lin Shuya had gone to the Min City Military Academy to look for Han Ming before, so she knew Wen Peeling through Han Ming. In addition, Wen Peeling was very kind, giving people the feeling that she was a big sister, so Lin Shuya and Wen Peeling got close. I had something to do at the last minute, so I went back to school early. I was thinking about the school's invitation, so I had to come over to greet the freshmen, Wen Peeling explained to Han Ming. Then Wen Peeling waved at Lin Shuya. "Shuya, I haven't seen you for a few months, and you've become more and more beautiful. Don't be so angry in the future, or you'll get wrinkles easily." Wen Peeling's words made Lin Shuya cover her face. Lin Shuya changed the way she bared her fangs and brandished her claws at Yun Jian and stuck her tongue out at Wen Peeling. "Got it, Senior Lingling." It had to be said that Wen Peeling had some skills. She was older, so she got along well with people. After greeting her acquaintances, Wen Peeling turned around to look at Yun Jian, Mu Ying, and Lin Wan. "Hello, I'm Wen Peeling, your senior in the 3rd grade." Wen Peeling smiled at Yun Jian and the others. Her smile was very sweet. After smiling, Wen Peeling turned to look at Yun Jian. She smiled at Yun Jian and continued, "Junior, what's your name? You were really good just now. Also, I believe what you said just now." As she spoke, Wen Peeling winked at Yun Jian and Mu Ying. Chapter 1346. Yun Jian, what a nice name. She's as beautiful as you. When Peeling praised Yun Jian greatly. This time, Yun Jian just pursed her lips and didn't say anything. Okay, if there's nothing else, go back to Banxiao village. We'll be distributing the food in tents later, and you'll have to change into the military training camouflage uniform. Since the matter had been resolved, and it was getting late, one of the instructors stood up and said, "Let's go back to the dormitory for a while." As soon as the instructor spoke, the students all retreated to Banxiao village. "Let's go too." Lin Wan turned her head to look at Yun Jian, then at Mu Ying, and then said, "Okay." Yun Jian nodded gently. When the three of them were about to leave, the senior instructor, who urged the students to go back to Banxiao village, called out to Yun Jian in time. "Wait, you're Yun Jian, right? Please stay for a while. I have something to tell you." Seeing the instructor call out to her, Yun Jian's eyes moved slightly. She nodded indifferently, then turned her head to Mu Ying and Lin Wan and said, "You two go back to Banxiao village first. Okay, then come over quickly later." Mu Ying and Lin Wan knew that Yun Jian was stopped by the instructor, so they both nodded and walked back. "Ying, don't walk so fast. Wait for me." Lung Hanja saw Mu Ying walking in the direction of Banxiao village, so he quickly ran after her. Lin Shuya looked at Yun Jian, snorted coldly, and left with Wen Peeling and Han Ming. After the surrounding students all left, the senior instructor who called out to Yun Jian just now came up. The surrounding senior instructors hadn't left yet, but the other senior instructors were a little confused when they saw the instructor call out to Yun Jian. The dozen or so farmers standing around hadn't left yet. Although this wild boar was ferocious after the wild boar died, its meat tasted even better than domesticated pigs. Naturally, the villagers would not let go of such a delicacy. Now, more than a dozen farmers were planning to divide this wild boar. Seeing that Yun Jian was stopped by the instructors, one of the farmers came over and stood in front of Yun Jian. He looked at her with a bright smile and said sincerely, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, Yun Jian. Little girl, I'm the village chief of Banxiao village. Thank you for your help just now. My wife will be cooking dinner later. I'll bring the wild boar back and let her cook it. It's very fresh. You must come to my house for dinner later." The farmer who claimed to be the village chief was very enthusiastic. "Thank you for your kindness, but I have to go into the mountains with my classmates later, so I won't be staying for dinner." Yun Jian rejected the village chief's kindness. The village chief was a reasonable person. He knew that Yun Jian was going with her classmates, so he did not force her. After the dozen or so villagers carried the big and fat wild boar away, the senior instructor who called out to Yun Jian spoke to Yun Jian in front of all the slightly surprised instructors. "You're Yun Jian, right? I'm Zhou Jiren. You may not know me, but it's okay, I know you. You're the Advanced Special Forces soldier with the codename Killing God under Old Ji's command, right? Oh, right, you're from Team Monarch." Once instructor Zhou finished speaking, the eyes of the instructors around him lit up. Could this be the Killing God who led the Zhe province army to join forces with the Kosha mercenaries and in Hun to wipe out the Inferno Ring? Another instructor exclaimed in shock. This group of instructors came from all over the country and were the best team of instructors in Country Z. Like the senior instructors present, what kind of talent had they not seen before? However, they had never seen a talent like Yun Jian. They had heard of Team Monarch's Killing God a long time ago and heard that she was a girl. Chapter 1347. Looking at the surprised eyes of the instructors, Yun Jian didn't feel proud of herself for being able to make these senior instructors from all over the country gasp in amazement. She was different from the average student, so naturally, she wouldn't feel proud of herself for making the senior instructors in front of her stunned. "Just say what you want. I don't like to beat around the bush." Looking at the instructor who stopped her just now, Yun Jian's expression didn't change at all as she said out loud. Even in front of so many instructors, Yun Jian wasn't afraid at all. Looking at Yun Jian like this, the instructors present were all stunned. Instructor Zhou was also stunned for a moment. Obviously, he didn't expect Yun Jian to say this. If it was any other adolescent boy or girl, they would definitely be proud of themselves. But what about Yun Jian? She wasn't even afraid of saying the wrong thing in front of the instructors? Ahem. Instructor Zhou covered his mouth and coughed lightly to show his embarrassment. He did have something to talk to Yunjian about, but just now he planned to chat with Yunjian for a while, planning to get familiar with Yunjian before talking about business. But since Yunjian saw through it, then Instructor Zhou didn't plan to hide it anymore. Ahem, I do have something to talk to you about. Instructor Zhou said, paused, then continued. It's like this. This time our military academy's military training will last for about a month. In the past, there weren't many military training sites in the field, and the students didn't have any experience before this. But for this year's freshmen, the higher-ups issued a new notice saying that in the last 7 days of this month's military training, you have to participate in a field survival activity. During the activity, there will be danger if you are willing to participate, but once you complete the mission in the activity, you will be transferred to the school's newly planned elite class to receive better training. This elite class is your year's batch. The school's teaching and research team has just decided to open it. If it's done well, they plan to open an elite class for every batch after your year, so Instructor Zhou rambled on, making Yunjian frown a little as she listened to him. She interrupted Instructor Zhou coldly. Get to the point. Being interrupted by Yunjian out of the blue. Instructor Zhou felt a sense of seriousness like she was his superior, so he corrected himself right away. In short, there will be a survival activity for the students in the last 7 days of the military training. Those who successfully complete the activity will be able to join the elite class. I want to ask you to do your best to ensure the safety of the other students during the survival activity. This wilderness survival activity is voluntary, right? How can you be so sure that I will choose to participate? Chapter 1348. Instructor Zhou was very smart. He knew how to make demands based on what she was thinking. Yunjian wanted to improve her strength. The other instructors did not notice this because Yunjian hit it well. However, Instructor Zhou noticed it. This meant that Instructor Zhou was very observant and smart. Hey, Zhou Jiren, are you stupid? They're learning to live freely. Why would they go to a place like the hunting school? That place is not a place for people to stay. The mortality rate is also high. Those who failed halfway and were driven back were already lucky. She's a good girl. How could she go to that kind of place? People will die in that place. One of the instructors heard Instructor Zhou say this to Yunjian. This instructor started to preach to Instructor Zhou on the spot. The other instructors heard this instructor's words and felt that it was reasonable. All the instructors felt that Instructor Zhou was talking nonsense. Which normal girl would want to go to that kind of place? Especially the children nowadays. Every one of them liked to enjoy life. No one liked to go to that kind of place to suffer, and something could happen at any time. What's more, after entering the hunting school, there was no way to quit. In that place, unless you failed the assessment and were eliminated, you had to stay in there even if you died. Little girl, don't listen to his nonsense. That kind of place is not something you can go to. However, I really need your help in this wilderness survival activity. An instructor standing at the side said to Yunjian with a smile. Just as the instructor said this, Yunjian's voice interrupted him. The instructors present heard it clearly. I agree. I will try to ensure the safety of the other students in the wilderness survival activity. However, if they don't listen to me and something happens to them, it has nothing to do with me. In addition, the premise of all this is that after I join the elite class, you must help me get a place to go to the hunting school. Yunjian was not a little girl without any social experience. Since Instructor Zhou had made a request, she naturally would not help if he could not guarantee that she would get what she wanted. Instructor Zhou sighed at Yunjian's shrewdness. He did not forget to reply to her. Okay, I promise. Okay, then I'll leave first. Yunjian glanced at Instructor Zhou from the corner of her eyes, then turned around and walked in the direction where Mu Ying and Lin Wan had left. After Yunjian left, Instructor Zhou laughed and shook his head. The younger generation will surpass us in time. The younger generation will surpass us in time. We're already old. Mu Ying and Lin Wan had already received their equipment, tents, camouflage uniforms, food, and water. She stood in place and waited for Yunjian. Then she saw a figure walking over. Yunjian, over here. Lin Wan waved at Yunjian. At this moment, Lin Wan and Mu Ying were sitting together, and the two of them were quite congenial. Let's go get our equipment. Mu Ying patted her military travel bag lightly. Don't look down on this travel bag. The things that could be packed in this bag were not few. All the equipment that was just distributed had already been packed in this military travel bag. Yunjian nodded, then walked towards the teacher who was distributing the equipment. Yo, what did the instructor say to you just now? Just when Yunjian was halfway there, Lin Shuya stopped Yunjian. She spoke to Yunjian in a strange tone. Trash, you don't need to know. If I were you, I would shrink into a ball and scram. Yunjian's footsteps paused. This time, she did not ignore Lin Shuya. Instead, she turned her head and said something to Lin Shuya in a good mood. Chapter 1349. After receiving the equipment, Yunjian put everything into the military travel bag that was just distributed and then returned to where Mu Ying and Lin Wan were. Hey, Yunjian, that Lin Shuya's face was as ugly as if she ate **T. Did you say something funny just now? Tell us, let's have some fun. Lin Wan looked at Lin Shuya, who was far away, and she laughed twice and said, It's fine if she doesn't talk, but when she does, it's absolutely infuriating. Mu Ying sat next to Lin Wan. She pinched open a bottle of mineral water, drank a few mouthfuls to moisten her throat, and then turned her head to Lin Wan and said, Ha, you know Yunjian so well, then the two of you must have a very good relationship, right? Lin Wan asked it this time, and then sighed again. Wow, I'm so envious of the friendship between the two of you. Lin Wan's personality was quite straightforward. She usually didn't use her brain to think about what she wanted to say. Friendship? Maybe Yunjian and maybe it can be considered friendship. After hearing Lin Wan's words, Mu Ying turned her head to look at Lin Wan, and then looked into the distance and said, Yunjian also sat on the cement stone, pursed her lips, and said nothing in the end. Others might not understand, but Yunjian understood what Mu Ying said. Mu Ying still hadn't walked out of the cruel world of her previous life. In that world, Yunjian and Mu Ying had no friendship, and they couldn't even be considered friends. They snuggled together just to find a sense of security from each other. If it was really a matter of life and death, Mu Ying had to make a move on Yunjian, or Yunjian had to make a move on Mu Ying. At that moment, no one would be merciful because who didn't want to live? But in the end, Mu Ying died for Yunjian. To be honest, Mu Ying was willing to die for her at that moment. Yunjian never thought that, because at that time, Yunjian was willing to kill Mu Ying in order to survive. So in her previous life, the word friendship couldn't be used to measure their relationship. She's deliberately mystifying things again. Some people, thinking that their companion killed a wild boar, started bragging. Lin Shuya, who was standing at the side, heard Mu Ying's words and said sourly, even if those words weren't said by Yunjian, as long as it involved Yunjian, Lin Shuya would start talking nonsense. In fact, Lin Shuya had a lot of opinions about Mu Ying and Yunjian because Mu Ying and Yunjian were too mysterious. That mysterious feeling made Lin Shuya hate Mu Ying and Yunjian to the core. On the other side, Lung Hanja had been paying attention to Mu Ying. Lung Hanja stood not far away, and Han Ming and the other seniors who were invited back by the school to lead the team were also not far away. Seeing that Lung Hanja was staring at Mu Ying, Wen Peeling, who was standing not far away, had a sharp glint in her eyes, but it was gone in a flash. 3 juniors, do you want to drink some Sprite? I brought a bottle of Sprite and a few bags of potato chips. Do you want to eat? Wen Peeling stood up and walked towards Yunjian and the others. She even very politely patted her military travel bag and said, I don't eat snacks. I don't eat snacks from strangers. Yunjian didn't say the last sentence. Wen Peeling smiled awkwardly, then took the bag of potato chips out of the military travel bag and handed it to Mu Ying. Before Wen Peeling could say anything, Mu Ying interrupted her. I don't eat snacks either. I'll eat it. I'll eat it. Thank you, senior. Lin Wan took the bag of potato chips from Wen Peeling's hand. She smiled and thanked Wen Peeling, then opened the bag of potato chips and started munching on them. Eat slowly, there's Sprite here. Wen Peeling smiled and poured a cup of Sprite for Lin Wan. Senior, you're so nice. Unlike some people. Lin Wan glared fiercely at Lin Shuya, then said to Wen Peeling, You. Lin Shuya, who was in the distance, almost exploded. Okay, everyone stop quarreling. We're here for military training, so we have to get along peacefully. Wen Peeling interrupted the quarrel between Lin Wan and Lin Shuya. She smiled brightly. Perhaps they were affected by Wen Peeling's atmosphere. Lin Wan and Lin Shuya really stopped quarreling. Hey, there's a car coming from there. Just as everyone was about to leave Banqiao village and walk for about half an hour on a mountain road to the field training camp base, a military jeep came this way. Seeing this, the people around them opened their eyes curiously, wanting to see who the people in the car were. Even the instructors who had returned here were a little surprised. Who came here? There were only a few families in Banqiao village. Who could drive here? And the most important thing was that this car was a military jeep. Seeing this familiar jeep, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. This car was Gu Yunjian's. Just as he was thinking this, he saw 6 figures get out of the car. It was none other than the other 6 members of Team Monarch, namely Chu Ning, Chu Xiangnan, and the rest. Wow, I know them. Heavens. They're from Team Monarch. They actually came here? Could it be that they came here to cheer for us? Someone shouted loudly. Now, Team Monarch's name was the most prominent in Min City Military Academy. Some of the students could even brag about a conversation they had with Team Monarch. Team Monarch? Lin Shuya was equally stunned when she saw how shocked everyone around her was. Yes, it's Team Monarch. I've seen them before. I worked so hard to get into Min City Military Academy because they're here. Look, that's Chu Xiangnan from Team Monarch, codename Thunderbolt. So cool. A girl around them screamed so loudly that she almost fainted. Lin Shuya and the rest were secretly impressed. Team Monarch was amazing. Just as they thought that, they saw Chu Ning tugging Chu Xiangnan's ear and bringing the rest of them to Yun Jian. Chu Ning looked at Yun Jian and smiled, saying, Yun Jian, we're here to cheer for you. You'll have to make Team Monarch proud in the Wilderness Survival event this time. It'll be best if you can get into the elite class. Hee hee. Chu Ning's words left the crowd dumbfounded. Lin Shuya and the rest were dumbfounded as well. What? Yun Jian was a member of Team Monarch too. Moreover, after a careful count, he realized that Chu Ning's Team Monarch was only missing one person, and that person was Team Monarch's most legendary, most powerful, killing god. Chapter 1350. The students around them, Lin Shuya, Lung Hanja, Wen Peeling, Han Ming, as well as the students from other classes, were dumbfounded. Was there any other news that they had always admired? Many of them had even come to the military school because they heard that Slashing God was studying in Min City's military academy. In the end, not only was Slashing God among them, but she was also a skinny girl who looked like she could not fight. If Yun Jian was really Slashing God, then it was not so unbelievable that she had killed the wild boar alone just now. So she's Slashing God? Lin Shuya asked blankly the moment Chu Ning dragged Chu Xiangnan to Yun Jian. She was still in disbelief. Before this, Lin Shuya was still in awe when she heard Slashing God's title. She's so valuable. My Yun Jianer. Chu Ning replied to Lin Shuya before mimicking a soft female voice and pounced on Yun Jian. She even pushed away Chu Xiangnan, who had been dragging her all the way. Chu Xiangnan scratched his head helplessly. Yun Jian did not even look up. She extended a hand to stop Chu Ning from pouncing on her and asked, Why are you guys here? They insisted on coming to cheer you on, so I brought them here. Jun Jian, who got down from the military jeep, answered Yun Jian. Yeah, Yun Jian, we came all the way from Longmen City to cheer you on. I heard that freshmen like you can sign up for the wilderness survival activity in the last 7 days. Those who pass can join the elite class, so we're here to cheer you on. Chu Ning hugged Yun Jian's arm that was extended to her. She explained to Yun Jian with a grin. What's the wilderness survival activity? What's the elite class? Lung Hanja, who stood not far away, was the first to notice the problem and asked. The rest of the students realized the point they did not understand at once and turned their eyes to the senior instructors who were in charge of the students present. Haha, old Gu, your daughter's performance is amazing. I recognized her right away. Instructor Zhou went up to Gu Junjian to give him a big hug when he saw Gu Junjian. Then, Instructor Zhou turned around and explained to the students about the wilderness survival activity and the elite class. Your military training will last for a month this time. You've been going through the usual military training before this. The training content is nothing more than standing and so on. We'll also bring you into the forest to teach you the key to survive in the wilderness. We won't let you go in blindly. In addition, there will be a wilderness survival activity on the last 7 days of the military training. It might not be safe, but it can guarantee your safety. Those who are willing to join, we won't force you. However, if you succeed in the activity, you can join another elite class. It's a new class that hasn't been open for the 2nd and 3rd years of high school. Once you enter the elite class, it means that you can go to a better and better place to be trained at any time. Of course, if you fail in the wilderness survival activity this time, you'll have all sorts of opportunities to join the elite class in the future. Instructor Zhou explained it in detail, afraid that the students would not understand. He also pointed out clearly that they would only be specially trained if they entered the elite class. Since he had said that, Instructor Zhou did not mind telling the students to work hard. If you enter the elite class and perform well, you might be able to represent our country's special forces and enter the hunting school for practical training in 10 or 20 years' time. Some of the girls were confused when Instructor Zhou finished his words. At this moment, Lung Hanja suddenly asked excitedly, Instructor Zhou, is the hunting school the special forces training base in South America? It's called the Devil's Training School. The death rate is extremely high, but once you've completed the training, you'll be able to fight like a killer who climbed out of a pile of corpses. Everyone gasped when they heard Lung Hanja's words. Yun Jian, who was standing at the side, raised her eyebrows. After Lung Hanja finished his question, she asked Instructor Zhou, I can only go to the hunting school after 10 or 20 years after entering the elite class. I can't wait that long. Yun Jian's words shocked the students again. Chapter 1351. Moreover, judging from Yun Jian's tone, it was as if it was inevitable that she would go to the hunting school with a high mortality rate. Since the establishment of the hunting school, only a dozen to 20 special forces from Z country have been admitted. Moreover, those who were eliminated in the middle were mostly missing an arm or a leg. They were considered lucky. Usually, the bodies of those who were eliminated in the middle were sent back directly. Yunjian, do you really want to go to such a place? Lung Hanja asked because Yunjian was Mu Ying's friend. I have to go. After Yunjian finished speaking, she turned her gaze to Instructor Zhou in front of everyone. Instructor Zhou had yet to reply to her question. When he first told her, Instructor Zhou said that she could go to the hunting school after studying in the elite class for a year or even half a semester if she was fast. However, he now said that after entering the elite class, she would have to stay in the elite class for another 10 to 20 years. She might not even be able to go to the hunting school. That's for the ordinary people who can enter the elite class. As for you, I estimate that you'll be qualified to go to the hunting school in half a semester. Instructor Zhou praised Yun Jian highly. Those who could enter the elite class were definitely the cream of the crop. However, in Yun Jian's case, even the elites of the elite class had to add an ordinary in front of them. However, it made sense. The elites of the elite class had to wait for another 10 to 20 years before they had the chance to represent the country to go to the hunting school. It was the lifelong wish of many special forces to be able to enter the hunting school for training. Instructor Zhou's evaluation of Yun Jian shocked all the students who were standing around. Even Gu Junjian did not expect Instructor Zhou to have such a high evaluation of Yun Jian. Instructor Zhou was a senior instructor. Even in the international arena, he had a certain amount of status. Anything that came out of his mouth would definitely not be something that he would just talk about. Instructor Zhou, she Is she really that powerful? Lin Shuya's unconvinced voice was heard. Hearing this, the group of people standing around even had the urge to send Lin Shuya flying with a slap. How could she refute the instructor's words? At this time, Instructor Zhou's words were heard again. He looked at Yun Jian with a probing gaze and said, "I'm afraid her strength is more powerful than I thought. As for how capable she is, you can ask for yourself." In fact, all the instructors present wanted to know this very much. Lin Xia didn't expect to get such an answer. She stomped her feet and walked away unconvinced. Yun Jian pretended not to hear Instructor Zhou's question and pretended not to say anything. Seeing this, Instructor Zhou didn't force Yun Jian to say more. The month-long military training had officially begun. After all the students had set up their tents in the field training camp, they would begin their normal military training. Chu Ning and the others returned to Longmen City under Gu Yunjian's lead. Other than standing in a military posture, the military training also included some basic military steps. It was no different from the military training in an ordinary school, except that it took a little longer. Nothing out of the ordinary happened during this period, so more than 20 days had passed in the blink of an eye. It was time for the field survival exercise the next day. At night, sitting on the lawn and watching the moon in the sky, Yun Jian, Mu Ying, and Lin Wan sat in front of the tent. The three of them were silent for a while before Mu Ying broke the silence. She seemed to hesitate for a long time before clenching her fists and turning to Yun Jian to say, "Yun Jian, I want to go to the hunting school too." Before Yun Jian could say anything after she said that, a tall silhouette rushed up from the side. It was Lung Hanja. He had obviously heard what Mu Ying said just now. He rushed up to grab Mu Ying's wrist and told Mu Ying, "No, why are you going to such a place? Besides, your family won't agree to it." Chapter 1352. All they saw was a tall and slender figure leaning against the tree. His slender legs and silhouette were as dazzling as the stars in the dark. It was enough to make all the girls present scream until they lost themselves. Fortunately, it was nighttime. Other than the students from different schools, the rest of the students had either returned to their tents or gathered together to play cards. No one looked in that direction. When Yun Jian turned her head to look, her eyes met with a pair of deep, shining eyes in the dark. When she came back to her senses, she saw that the person leaning against the tree was already walking over. That pair of slender legs seemed to have been carefully carved by God. Very quickly, it attracted the attention of the students who hadn't noticed him before. "Damn!" One of the boys who was playing poker screamed. He was so scared that he dropped the poker cards in his hand into the bonfire that was lit by the firewood. See, he suddenly appeared, like a ghost in the dark. The crowd sitting around him was shocked. When they came back to their senses, they saw that he was already walking toward Yun Jian. "Who's this guy?" He suddenly appeared like a ghost. "I was scared to death," someone said loudly. "But this man is so handsome." Another girl held her face in her hands and shouted out loud in a rather infatuated manner. He ignored everything around him. After he walked over, he grabbed Yun Jian's hand and pulled Yun Jian up from the ground. Then, he walked toward the small forest. Hey, who are you? How can you take away a student from our school without permission?" An instructor who was patrolling saw he suddenly pull Yun Jian toward the small forest. He quickly chased after him to stop him. The moment he saw Lin Shuya, who was sitting not far away with Wen Peeling and Han Ming, was stunned. All the students thought that Yun Jian was in a relationship at a young age. After all, this guy who suddenly appeared walked over and pulled Yun Jian away in front of the instructor. If this wasn't love, then what was? And they actually dared to do it so openly. After hearing the instructor's question, he narrowed his eyes. At the same time, he didn't let go. Instead, he pulled Yun Jian into his arms. "Instructor, they're openly dating each other. Let's not talk about the fact that we're students. I don't think even in the military you can hug so openly, right? I suggest that Yun Jian be punished." Seeing such a tall and handsome man hugging Yun Jian, Lin Shuya was very unconvinced. The jealousy in her heart also sprouted. Lin Shuya just happened to catch this scene. She started egging Yunjian on, as if she was afraid that Yunjian wouldn't be punished. Dating, C.E. broke into a smile, his handsome face mesmerizing. Lin Xia couldn't help but stare. This time, I agree with Xia's point of view. It's best not to fall in love early in school, especially in our military school. Moreover, it's still the military training period now. When Peeling stood up rather gently and said a sentence of justice. Ahem, even if you're Team Monarch slashing God, I can't cover for you, so... The instructor was about to punish Yunjian. Just then, he suddenly half-hugged Yunjian. He took out a thin book from his trouser pocket and threw it to the instructor. He hugged Yunjian's slender waist again and suddenly curled his lips to declare his sovereignty. Nominally, she's already my wife. This is Country R's marriage certificate. We're legal. The instructor grabbed the book and glanced at it. Then his face stiffened. This is really Country R's marriage certificate. I have a relative who was married to a Country R citizen. It's this kind of book. After hearing the instructor's words, Lin Xia's face darkened to the extreme. Everyone around them was stunned. Yunjian gave C.E. a little push. Just as she was about to turn and leave, C.E. grabbed her wrist and pressed her against the tree to kiss her. Xiao Jian, where's the ring? After the kiss, he realized that Yunjian was not wearing the ring he brought back from Yulong mainland. Accessories were not allowed during military training, so Yunjian had kept it. It's in my bag, Yunjian answered with oppressive lips. C.E. grunted before his lips curled into a smirk. If you don't wear it next time, I'll eat you. Chapter 1354. C.E. stole a few more mouthfuls of tofu when Yunjian was not paying attention. In the end, even when Yunjian reached out to slap his hand to stop him, it was useless. If they were not in the forest, but on a huge bed, C.E. would probably not have been able to hold himself back. They had already gotten the marriage certificate, but the title was not confirmed yet. Just thinking about it made him feel indignant. Yunjian and the rest have been gone for so long. I heard from the instructor that the forest here is not particularly safe. When we first came here, there was even a wild boar attack. Do you think they're in danger? Lin Wan sat on the grass and chatted with Mu Ying for a long time. In fact, it was Lin Wan talking to herself. Mu Ying was in charge of listening and occasionally replied to Lin Wan. Lin Wan suddenly thought of the danger as she spoke. She quickly sat up straight and turned to Mu Ying. Thinking about it, there were quite a lot of wild beasts in the forest. No one could guarantee that there would not be a ferocious beast running out of the forest. Will something happen to them? Mu Ying, shall we get the instructor to look for them? Lin Wan stood up from the ground in fright. Mu Ying tugged Lin Wan's clothes and pulled Lin Wan back to the ground. She said calmly, "Don't worry. If this lousy forest can stump her, the sky will fall." Lin Wan heard Mu Ying's words and heaved a sigh of relief. Is that so? Then I'm not worried. Unless the sky falls, nothing will stump her. Even if Yunjian is Team Monarch's slashing god, she can't be omnipotent, right? She's not a god. There are some things that are better not said so easily. Lin Xia was sitting not far away. After hearing Mu Ying's words, she sneered. Lin Xia still did not like Yunjian after knowing that she was Team Monarch's slashing god. However, he didn't dare to say it as openly as before. Lin Xia's words didn't get any response from Mu Ying and Lin Wan. After sitting there for a while, Lin Wan suddenly saw two figures coming out of the woods. The moment she saw Yunjian, Lin Wan heaved a sigh of relief. Then she tugged at the corner of Mu Ying's clothes. Look, Yunjian is back safely. Okay. Mu Ying nodded. Just as he looked up, he saw two silhouettes walking toward Yunjian. Yunjian had just walked out of the forest with C.E. when she sensed a girl pouncing on her. Needless to say, this girl was Lin Xia's little follower, Xiang Qishi. Xiang Qishi walked over and reached out to grab Yunjian's wrist, acting like she was very close to Yunjian. She wanted to pull Yunjian aside while saying, "Yunjian, you must be slashing god. I admire you so much. My friends also admire you very much. Can you come over and say hello to my friends?" Xiang Qishi wanted to pull Yunjian away, But before she could reach out, Yun Jian dodged Xiang Chishi's hand and rejected coldly. No, Xiang Chishi was stunned. She obviously didn't expect Yun Jian to reject her so decisively. On the other hand, Lin Xia wanted to hit on Ce. Although she said something serious, she wanted to lean on Ce. Handsome, are you and Yun Jian really married? How'd you guys get married? Can you? As Lin Xia spoke, she even thought about it. Her breasts were well developed. She planned to rub her breasts against Ce's hand. As long as it was a man, he wouldn't be able to stand it. But imagination was beautiful. Lin Xia didn't even get close to Ce. She couldn't even touch the corner of Ce's clothes. Ce, he didn't even look at her. He kicked Lin Xia coolly and frowned slightly. He spat out a word of disgust between his thin lips. Get lost. This was nothing. What scared Lin Xia even more was that he actually took out a silver pistol from his waist and pointed it at her. Stay away from me. Otherwise, this will be your end. After Ce finished speaking, everyone was shocked that he actually took out a pistol. At the same time, he suddenly fired a shot at a spot on the lawn not far from Lin Xia's side. A frog that was passing by was killed by this shot, and blood splattered everywhere. The blood splattered directly onto Lin Xia's face and body, causing Lin Xia to tremble on the spot and scream incessantly due to this unforeseen event. Chapter 1355. Lin Xia was suddenly kicked by Ce and splashed by the frog blood. She was so scared that she started twitching. If Lin Xia was envious of Yun Jian and Ce being together, then she and all the girls present were terrified of Ce. He even used a gun. Lin Xia only wanted to play a little trick, but not only did he send her flying with a kick, he even wanted to kill her. This man was very handsome, but how could he be so cold? At this moment, the instructor who was patrolling saw it and rushed over to stop Ce, afraid that Ce would really kill someone in front of everyone. Comrade, don't you know that it's illegal to carry a gun? Hurry up and hand it over. Although the instructor didn't know who Ce was, he could only do things according to common sense. As for Lin Xia and Xiang Chishi, they were so scared that they hugged each other. Not to mention the two of them, the surrounding boys were all trembling in fear. Ce's eyes moved. At this moment, he hugged Yun Jian and didn't even look at the instructor. He reached into his trouser pocket and took out a leather certificate other than the marriage certificate and threw it to the instructor. Although it was nighttime, the surrounding students could clearly see the three big words written on the leather cover of the certificate: gun license. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows slightly. He actually managed to get a gun license from Z country? In the past, if Ce came to country Z, he never cared about these things. He could have committed a crime and left country Z. With his status, even if the police pursued him, there would be no news. But he didn't. In country Z, Ce didn't kill anyone for her. Now, he even deliberately got a gun certificate. After all, Yun Jian still had to live in country Z. Qin Yiru, Yun and the others were all in country Z. If something really happened, they couldn't live there anymore. One could imagine how much Ce had changed for her. He was the leader of the Han organization, but he endured to this extent for her. If they weren't in country Z, Lin Xia would definitely end up like that frog. The moment the instructor received the gun certificate, his eyes were wide open. The instructor's hands trembled. He looked up at Ce and flipped through the gun certificate in his hand. This is really a gun license, you. The instructor's words made all the students around him feel shocked and terrified. Although the surrounding people had seen the three big words gun license just now, when they received the instructor's verification, the oral shock was still not small. In other words, it was legal for Ce to carry a gun. Lin Xia and Xiang Chishi dared not move, looking like they were really afraid that Ce would shoot them. In front of everyone's eyes, in front of everyone, he hugged Yun Jian in front of everyone's eyes. At the same time, in a low voice, his voice in front of everyone, I'm leaving. If anyone bullies you, just kill them. If anything happens, I'll take care of it for you. As soon as Ce finished speaking, Yun Jian softly replied, An ordinary person would definitely not be able to produce a gun certificate. In this case, Ce was definitely not an ordinary person. At this moment, even the instructor was a little stunned. Until CE took the gun certificate from the instructor and left, everyone present was still in a state of shock. Yunjian, you're wearing a ring on your finger? It's so beautiful. At this moment, Lin Wan suddenly ran in front of Yunjian and lifted Yunjian's ring finger to take a look. Then, she shouted with joy. This ring was on her finger, and CE had deliberately chosen it. Yunjian retracted her gaze from CE's direction and smiled slightly. Okay, go back to your tents and sleep. It's fine. Especially the students who are participating in the 7-day outdoor survival activity tomorrow. Go and rest. The instructor urged at this moment. Then, all the students returned to their tents. Chapter 1356. The next day, the sun was still shining brightly. It was summer, and the sun rose earlier in the south. At around 4:20 in the morning, the first rays of the morning sun had already appeared in the east. In less than 20 minutes, the sky would be completely bright. Yunjian woke up at 4:30. The air was the freshest at this time. Taking a deep breath would give one a refreshing feeling that penetrated one's heart. Yunjian pulled open the tent and came out. She gently stretched. At this time, the students in the surrounding tents were still sleeping. 6:30 was the time to wake up. At 7 o'clock, the students who planned to participate in this outdoor survival activity would be sent to the activity location by the school bus. Student Yunjian, you're up so early? Instructor Zhou came from the side at this time. He glanced at Yunjian, then smiled and said, It's not early. Yunjian pursed her lips and smiled. Then, she put on her little white shoes, stood up, and walked towards the woods. What are you going to do, student Yunjian? Instructor Zhou was stunned when he saw this. Morning exercise, Yunjian said as she stretched, then jogged towards the woods. Instructor Zhou, who was standing in the same spot, was stunned. Then he smiled and stood in the same spot. He shook his head and praised, What a good seedling. When Yunjian came back from her morning run, it was already 5:30. The students were still not awake, except for a few instructors who were already awake and sitting on the lawn. When he saw Yunjian, Instructor Zhou waved at her. Hey, Yunjian, you're back? The other students will wake up in an hour. Come over and let's talk. When Yunjian saw this, she gently wiped the sweat on her forehead and walked towards the instructors. Then, she sat down on the lawn and looked at the instructor sideways. The students who don't need to participate in today's outdoor survival activity ended their military training early. So, last night, we asked the students to hand in small slips of paper asking if they wanted to participate in today's outdoor survival activity. There are a total of 15 classes in the entire grade, and there isn't even a single student in one class. How can we compete with the students from the Wulin Military Academy in the province? One of the instructors gritted his teeth and said as he slapped a large piece of paper on the ground. Yunjian raised her eyebrows slightly and asked, In this outdoor survival activity, our school is competing with the students from other military academies from other provinces? Instructor Zhou then replied to Yunjian, Yes, it's a competition to see which school has more students passing this activity. I'll talk about this later. Yunjian pursed her lips and did not ask anymore. Muing woke up at 6 o'clock. At 6:30, all the students got up. The students who did not participate in the outdoor survival activity in the morning and went home to rest after their military training. As for the students who continued to participate in the outdoor survival activity, only of the year of the Wulin, the year of the wold of the wolf, in other words, 30 of the students in the wilderness survival of the year. After sending the 30 students to the beach near Min City, Instructor Zhou mentioned that the student from Min City Military Academy would be competing with the students from Wulin Military Academy from Sesame City in the province. The location of the competition was set to be an uninhabited island. The uninhabited island covered a large area, and there were some dangerous animals on it. Before entering the uninhabited island, Instructor Zhou would give each student a panic button. Once the button was pressed, the military personnel would know that the student had given up on the competition. Then, they would immediately send a helicopter to take the student away. The competition could be stopped midway. After Yun Jian and the others got out of the car, they met up with the freshmen from Wulin Military Academy before they went to the uninhabited island. When they saw that Yun Jian and the others from Min City Military Academy were thin and weak, some of the students from Wulin Military Academy began to put on airs. "Who is this?" Lin Shuya screamed again. Yun Jian lowered her eyes. Just as she was about to close her eyes again, she saw that Instructor Zhou had already started distributing the emergency SOS to each student. There was a button on the emergency SOS. Pressing the button would set the location. As long as a student didn't want to continue participating in the competition, they could press the button, indicating that they admitted defeat and intended to withdraw from the competition midway. According to the location on the emergency SOS, the helicopter would fly there to pick up the students. When Instructor Zhou handed the emergency SOS to Yun Jian didn't take it. "I don't need it. Every student has one. Take it. You can do whatever you want with it," Instructor Zhou said with a smile. When Yun Jian heard this, she took the emergency SOS and threw it directly into the sea outside the cruise ship without even looking at it. This throw meant that she had no way out. She didn't even have the right to withdraw from the competition midway. Seeing this, the group of boys from Wulin Military Academy began to whistle and lean over. Some of the boys even teased, "Yo, this girl is quite fierce, but it's not very wise, haha." Chapter 1358. Even if they're fools, it's not up to you to talk about our classmates. Trash Wulin Military School. Lin Xia didn't know what was wrong with her at this time. She actually helped Yun Jian scold the boy. Lin Xia helped Yun Jian purely because Wulin Military School and Min City's military school were now enemies. It was one thing to quarrel with one's own people, but it was another thing to quarrel with outsiders. "What are you talking about, woman? Be careful that I don't beat you up." The boy from Wulin Military School heard Lin Xia's words and stood up directly and clenched his fist at Lin Xia. After all, boys were stronger than ordinary girls. Seeing this, Lin Xia shrank back and was a little scared. "Pa!" Just as the boys from Wulin Military School saw Lin Xia's cowardly look and laughed out loud, Yun Jian's hand, which was originally attached to the armrest of the seat, suddenly exerted force. Hearing this, the group of people around looked over, only to see Yun Jian's hand on the armrest of the seat. She exerted a little force and actually broke the plastic armrest of the seat. Although the armrest of the seat was made of plastic, because of its large size, breaking it was definitely not something that could be done with ordinary strength. Yun Jian looked thin and weak. Her small body looked as if she hadn't eaten much and had no strength at all. But with a gentle twist of her hand, she actually broke the plastic armrest directly. What kind of strength was this? The group of boys from Wulin Military School were still laughing and mocking her just now. Now that they suddenly saw this scene, they were so scared that they stopped breathing. Damn it. This is not human. A boy from Wulin Military School was so scared that he directly roared out after seeing this scene. However, he saw Yun Jian throw the armrest of the seat to the ground. She propped one hand by her ear and said impatiently, "You guys are very noisy." After hearing Yun Jian's words and looking at Yun Jian's actions just now, the group of boys from Wulin Military School actually shut their mouths instantly and became terrified. Seeing this scene, the boys in Yun Jian's school laughed out loud. "Damn, this is so satisfying. Yun Jian, you're amazing. We support you." Similar voices emerged one after another. But Yun Jian just turned sideways and closed her eyes to rest. When things quieted down, the group of boys from Wulin Military School shouted at Yun Jian, "It's not good for a girl to be so rude. Be careful that no one will want you when you grow up." I want it. Such a beautiful woman. I can't wait to see her." What was even worse was that someone actually shouted at Yun Jian, "Hey, little sister, if we win this competition, will you be my girlfriend?" These words caused another uproar. No one from Min's City Military Academy spoke up for Yunjian either. Lin Wan originally wanted to scold them back for Yunjian, but she was stopped by Muing. When they arrived at the uninhabited island, the instructors reminded them again and again. In the end, they checked every student's military travel bag to make sure that they had enough food to survive for 7 days. Only then did they watch the group of students walk into the dense forest of the uninhabited island. Every student had brought enough food and necessities. After all, this group of students did not have any practical experience. It would be very dangerous to let them go in without bringing anything. Other than that, the instructors also prepared a military dagger for each student to defend themselves. When they just entered the forest of the uninhabited island, all the students from Wulin Military School and Min's City Military Academy walked together. At first, the sun was shining brightly in the sky, so even when they walked into the forest, it did not feel eerie. As Lin Wan walked, she seemed to be affected by the environment. She turned her head to look at Yunjian, then turned her head to look at Mu Ying and asked, Mu Ying, how was it when you and Yunjian were in the Amazon forest? Can you tell me about it? As she spoke, Lin Wan blinked curiously. Chapter 1359. Damn, are you kidding me? 2 girls have been to the Amazon forest? Are you kidding me? Do you have passports? Can you go abroad? I don't believe you. A Wulin Military School boy, who had been leading the clamor and looked like a ruffian, shouted first. He then looked at Yunjian and Mu Ying with a scrutinizing gaze. Everyone present could feel the look of disbelief on his face. That's right. If this was said by a man, I could still believe it. But if it's said by 2 skinny girls, I won't believe it even if you beat me to death. Standing next to the ruffian boy, another boy who was close to the ruffian boy also laughed in collusion with him. The former was called Wu Bu Kuei, and the latter was called Ma Xiaoyao. Both of them were famous freshmen in Wulin Military School. Their strength was not bad, but their character was not good, especially Wu Bu Kuei. Due to his outstanding performance during the military training, he attracted the admiration of many girls. He even secretly took advantage of many girls. In Wu Bu Kuei's own words, he wanted to F***CK all the beautiful girls. When he saw Yunjian just now, he already felt that she was not bad. But boys, especially boys who were in puberty and had the strongest desire to win, once they heard that a boy was better than them, they would want to compete. Not to mention that a girl was better than them. If a girl was better than them, of course they would not admit it, unless this girl could convince him wholeheartedly. Originally, Lin Wan only wanted to ask Mu Ying, but she did not expect the boys from Wulin Military School to speak up. Therefore, she stomped her feet angrily. Mu Ying completely ignored the boys. She pretended that she did not hear what the boys said. She directly said to Lin Wan, "That was a long time ago. Yunjian and I stayed in the Amazon forest for half a year. When we first went in, we did not even have a dagger, let alone food. In the Amazon forest, which was full of beasts, I met a group of cheetahs as soon as I went in." Mu Ying suddenly turned to ask Yunjian, "Yunjian, what was the first beast you encountered after entering the Amazon?" At this time, Mu Ying asked Yunjian. She felt a sense of nostalgia when she recalled the dangerous past. It was a feeling of fear and nostalgia. Cobras, about 100 of them. Yunjian pursed her red lips. She looked at the ground and replied to Mu Ying, "Haha, cheetahs and cobras. What a joke." As soon as Mu Ying and Yunjian finished talking, the boys from Wulin Military Academy, led by Wu Bu Kuei and Ma Xiaoyao, began to laugh again. Just as the group of people took 2 more steps forward, Yunjian suddenly raised her head and shouted, "Stop right there." Hearing Yunjian shout, everyone around was so scared that they stopped in their tracks. Yunjian's voice was loud and clear, startling Wu Bu Kuei before he came to his senses. "F***CK, little beauty, are you crazy?" Wu Bu Kuei shouted. "If we go any further, it will be a swamp. If we fall into a swamp, no one will survive," Yunjian said coldly. "Ha ha, a swamp? Isn't the road ahead very normal? Are you kidding? Or are you trying to find a sense of presence? Is this all your Min's City Military Academy is capable of? This time, the girl named Su Wei who quarreled with Lin Shuya just now mocked Yun Jian. Obviously, Su Wei was very unhappy that Yun Jian attracted all the boys from Wulin Military Academy. If you want to go, go ahead. Yun Jian did not even look at Su Wei. She squatted down slightly, picked up a large stone from the ground, and smashed the large stone on the ground in front of her. The flat ground that looked like a normal road suddenly sank, and then the large stone was quickly swallowed into the ground. Su Wei, who just wanted to find more words to mock Yun Jian, was shocked. The other students also hurriedly stopped, and each of them was so scared that their faces instantly turned pale. This place that looked completely normal was actually a swamp. Yun Jian was really right, and if it was not for Yun Jian, then all of them present would. Chapter 1360. Su Wei and Wu Bukui's faces immediately darkened, especially Su Wei. Su Wei was the one who questioned Yun Jian the loudest just now, especially when Yun Jian said to her, "If you want to leave, do as you please." Su Wei had already lifted her foot and was about to walk forward. She was still thinking that the ground looked flat. How could it be a swamp? Who was Yun Jian trying to fool? However, before Su Wei could lift her foot to walk forward, Yun Jian threw a huge stone forward. Then, the seemingly ordinary ground swallowed the huge stone. It was a swamp. This was a swamp. Yun Jian was absolutely right. If Yun Jian had been a step slower to throw the rock into the swamp, she would have stepped on it, and she would be dead meat. The faces of the people around changed drastically. A student from Wulin Military School even shouted, "How could this be? Didn't the instructor say that it wouldn't be dangerous? How could there be a swamp here? This is impossible. Everything is possible. This forest is not as simple as it looks. If you can't stand it, leave as soon as possible." Yun Jian glanced coldly at the student from Wulin Military School who was yelling. This glance made the student tremble all over. Then, he shouted, "I don't want to continue. This is playing with our lives." After shouting, he pressed the button. He chose to withdraw from the competition. It was too dangerous here. He could lose his life at any time. In less than 10 minutes, a military helicopter flew here and took the student away. Several boys from Wulin Military School also automatically withdrew from the competition. No one from Yun Jian's school chose to withdraw. After the people who chose to leave left, Yun Jian turned to the crowd and said, "For those who don't like me or don't trust me, let's part ways here. I have no obligation to take you with me. Good luck." After that, Yun Jian waved to Mu Ying and Lin Wan. Su Wei didn't dare to say anything else, but Yun Jian was obviously talking about them. Although the students from Wulin Military Academy all wanted to go with Yun Jian, none of them could bring themselves to do it. So, Wu Bukui led them to the left. The students from Min's City Military Academy stood rooted to the ground. "I want to be with Ying Ying." This was Lung Hanja's wish. "Let's go together. We can only win if we work together. Besides, it's quite dangerous here. I think Yun Jian knows a lot about survival in the wild, so I'll have to trouble her to lead the way. This is also for the honor of our school." As soon as Lung Hanja finished speaking, Wen Peeling immediately added, "You can follow me, but you're not allowed to question my judgment. Otherwise, leave." This was Yun Jian's principle. She stood in front of everyone and spoke coldly with an expressionless face. "Do you really think you're—" Lin Shuya was a little unconvinced after hearing this. She muttered a few words, but Wen Peeling immediately covered her mouth. "That's enough. From now on, everyone will listen to Yun Jian. If anyone has any objections, they can leave by themselves if they have the ability." After all, Lung Hanja was the oldest in the group. As soon as he spoke, everyone was stunned. As expected, no one dared to say anything else. The group then walked in the opposite direction of the Wulin Military Academy students. After walking for about half an hour, they suddenly heard a cry for help coming from behind them. Just by listening, one could tell that it was the group of students from the Wulin military training who were running towards them as fast as they could. They were also shouting for help, which made Lung Hanja and the others frown. They're catching up. There are so many snakes. What do we do?" I don't want to stay in this godforsaken place anymore. We'll die. Ah, F***CK run. Run. Did the students from Wulin Military Academy lead the danger here? Chapter 1361. Yun Jian's eyes flashed, but her expression didn't change. In comparison, Yun Jian's classmates all tensed up when they heard the Wulin Military Academy students' screams from afar. What? What's going on? What's going on? Han Ming's expression changed. He quickly turned to look at Lung Hanja and spat out this sentence in fear. It's, judging from the sound, they're being chased by snakes. Everyone run. Lung Hanja's expression was also very bad, but compared to the people around him, his reaction was the calmest. Snakes? Snakes? I'm afraid of snakes the most. Ah! Lin Shuya was so scared that she almost fell to the ground. Her face instantly turned pale, and she wanted to be the first to run. It's a snake swarm. We can't run. Yun Jian squatted on the ground gently. She placed her hand on the ground and felt the movement from afar. Yun Jian, are you trying to get us killed? You already said that it's a snake swarm, and you still won't let us run. Lin Shuya couldn't suppress her fear anymore. She was the first to run as if she had gone crazy. However, she heard Lung Hanja say, "Listen to Yun Jian. If anyone dares to run now, then don't stay with us for the next 7 days." Lung Hanja's words made Lin Shuya even more afraid. She didn't dare to run anymore. Since it's a snake swarm, then let's go up the tree. Xiang Chishi, who was with Lin Shuya, suddenly said. Hearing the footsteps of the Wulin Military Academy students getting closer and closer, the people around them were so scared that they were trembling all over. Thus, after hearing Xiang Chishi's words, the people around them immediately found their target tree. Even Lin Shuya, who usually didn't climb trees for the sake of her image, ran up the tree like a wisp of smoke. At this time, Yun Jian had already raised her hand from the ground and stood up straight. Snakes can climb trees too, Yun Jian said. This made the students who had already climbed up the tree suddenly think of this point. Right? Snakes can climb trees too? What should they do? Were they really going to die here? No, they didn't want to die. At this moment, Yun Jian calmly said, if you have any flammable items like paper or books, take them out. Snakes are afraid of fire and smoke. Where there's fire, there's smoke. As long as there's fire, it won't dare to come over. Hearing Yun Jian's words, the boys immediately realized this. With that, the students tossed their books and papers into a pile in their military travel bags as fast as they could. Yun Jian then took out a lighter and flicked it on before tossing it into the fire together with the lighter. At this moment, he happened to see the group of Wulin Military Academy students chasing after a group of dozens of snakes rushing over. When they reached the bonfire, all the students from the Wulin Military Academy jumped over. Meanwhile, the snakes that were crawling towards them suddenly realized something. They turned around abruptly as if they had met their natural enemy and ran away in the blink of an eye. The people around her maintained their fighting and fearful expressions at all times. Only Yun Jian stood behind the fire with her arms crossed, watching the group of snakes disappear into the distance. When the group of snakes was really far away, the students on the tree all climbed down. Su Wei, Wu Bukue, and the others who had just led their classmates in another direction heaved a huge sigh of relief. On the other hand, Yun Jian's classmates were all amazed by Yun Jian's calmness after the incident. She was calm. She didn't seem to be panicking at all. Then, everyone suddenly remembered that Mu Ying said that she and Yun Jian had lived in the Amazon forest before. Yun Jian also said that when she entered the Amazon forest, the first beast she encountered was a group of snakes. Wasn't the way she chased away the snakes just now common sense for survival in the wild? If that was the case, Yun Jian, did you really stay in the Amazon forest for 6 months? Lung Hanja frowned and looked at Yun Jian. Chapter 1362. Everyone's curiosity was piqued by Lung Hanja's question. Yun Jian felt everyone's gaze on her, but she wasn't afraid of being stared at all. Instead, she welcomed everyone's attention. Her red lips curled up slightly. Finally, under everyone's expectant gazes, she said, "What does it matter if it's true or not? There are believers, and there are none who don't. I have nothing to say." With that, Yunjian turned around and called out to Mu Ying and Lin Wan. Then, she led the way. "Hey, Yunjian, wait for us." Seeing that Yunjian and the other two were about to leave, the people around them scrambled to catch up. Even the students from Wulin Military Academy chased after them out of fear. Who would care about their pride now? Was their pride more important than their lives? Following Yunjian could at least guarantee their own lives. Wu Bukue, Su Wei, Ma Xiaoyao, and the other students from Wulin Military Academy all followed Yunjian's footsteps. Wherever Yunjian went, the students followed. Yunjian didn't intend to shake them off on purpose. From morning to afternoon, and then to evening. The evening on the uninhabited island was chilly. There was no one around, and the roars of wild beasts could be heard from time to time. A group of students sat together in a circle, looking a little scared. "The firewood is here. It's all here." Hearing Yunjian's words, Lung Hanja organized a few boys to carry the firewood. It was now piled up in a pile. Yunjian glanced at it, then said to Lung Hanja, "Use it sparingly. The fire will burn until the sun rises in the morning. Also, arrange for 2 people to keep watch at night." After saying that, she glanced at the students who were setting up the tents around her. She walked to the side of the big tree, stepped on the ground, and leaped lightly. She had already used her fastest speed to leap up the tree and then lay down on a thick branch. "Yunjian, what are you doing?" When Peeling saw this scene, she opened her mouth and asked Yunjian in surprise. At the same time, there was a trace of surprise in her eyes. "Sleep," Yunjian said and closed her eyes. "Sleeping in a tree? Damn, does she think she's filming a martial arts movie?" Lin Shuya couldn't help but ridicule her flamboyant personality. Just as Lin Shuya said this, she was pulled by Peeling. "Shuya, don't be like this. Yunjian saved us twice. She is our benefactor." Peeling comforted Lin Shuya's shoulder. Lin Shuya replied indignantly, "Senior Lingling, you're just so kind." Yunjian didn't listen to a single word of what was being said. She closed her eyes and rested. For the next 3 days, they settled down here. During the day, the group of boys would go to the beach to fish. Then, they would collect firewood and light the firewood at night. This was to prevent the surrounding beasts from approaching without anyone noticing. On the 4th day, the group of people picked fresh mushrooms. When they were about to cook and eat them, they were stopped by Yunjian and lectured. Early in the morning of the 5th day, Yunjian was woken up by a scream. She opened her eyes and jumped down the tree. She saw Peeling and a few girls shouting in horror. The group of people around them revealed a panicked expression. "Shuya is gone? Shuya is gone. How could a person disappear all of a sudden?" Someone asked with a pale face. "Ah, I remember now. Yesterday evening, she walked towards the beach alone. I saw her and asked her what she was doing, but she ignored me. Then, I remember that I went to sleep first." A girl's voice trembled slightly as she spoke. In such a gloomy forest, someone in the group suddenly disappeared. This was an indescribably terrifying event. "What do we do? What do we do?" A girl was so scared that she couldn't speak. Chapter 1363. How did this happen? Why didn't I keep a close eye on her yesterday? Why didn't I notice that there was no one in her tent before I went to bed? Peeling's body trembled as she was comforted by a group of girls. She looked like she had suffered quite a shock. "It's okay, she will be fine." Xiang Chishi was scared half to death as well, but she stubbornly held on to her fear. Yunjian jumped down from the tree and walked over. "Did you find her?" At this time, the boys who ran to the beach had returned. Peeling quickly ran over and held Lung Hanja's hand. Lung Hanja shook his head. He pushed Peeling's hand away and walked over to Yunjian and Muing. "Yunjian, in this situation, should we leave or—" Lung Hanja asked for Yunjian's opinion. "Stay," Yunjian said without thinking. "Damn, my cousin is missing. Are you even human? You're happy that my cousin is missing, aren't you?" You hate my cousin for what she did to you before, don't you? When Han Ming heard Yun Jian's words, if the people around him didn't hold him back, he would have charged at Yun Jian like he had epilepsy. You can leave if you want, if you can. Yun Jian stood where she was with her eyes downcast, as she spoke nonchalantly, baffling everyone around her. What do you mean? Han Ming stared at Yun Jian for 2 seconds and said uneasily, There's a location blocker installed all around us. The emergency devices we have on hand have all lost their effectiveness. A girl with a rather enchanting figure walked over from the side. Looking closely, it was Mu Ying. Mu Ying held 3 or 4 things that looked like routers in her hands. However, they weren't routers. I only found 4 of them. The entire island is installed with these. The instructors won't be able to receive our emergency devices. Mu Ying handed the 4 location jammers to Yun Jian and explained to everyone. Didn't you find these location jammers? A few of the students did not believe him. They quickly pressed the emergency button on their body several times. However, after waiting for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, there was no sound at all. The instructors wouldn't even send a helicopter to rescue them. Ow! How did this happen? Only then did the students realize the severity of the situation. They were all scared out of their wits. Unless you find all the location jammers within 100 meters of us, your emergency devices won't work. Yun Jian looked at all the location jammers that Mu Ying handed to her. Then, she stood up straight and said, as she spoke, Yun Jian threw all the location jammers on the ground. These location jammers only have an effective range of 100 meters. However, if you want to find them, you have to search through all the soil, trees, or leaves within 100 meters. Yun Jian said, I found 4 within 100 meters just now. There should be more, Mu Ying said. If you want to go out and find Lin Shuya, look for the location jammers. Yun Jian pointed at the location jammers on the ground. On the 5th day, a group of people gathered together to look for location jammers. On the 6th day, they had found more than 10 location jammers. Yun Jian took Lin Wan's emergency device and looked at it. She suddenly stood up and said, There's another location jammer within 100 meters. As long as we find that location jammer, the emergency device can be used within 100 meters. This was definitely a man-made incident, because it wasn't just within 100 meters. Every corner of the island was installed with location jammers. Someone did it on purpose. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go look for it. When Peeling's hands tightened and her feet stopped moving, she said excitedly, Yes. We have to contact the instructor quickly. Lin Shu's travel bag is still with us. If something happens to her, Xiang Chishi said fearfully. Bah, what happened? My cousin wouldn't. Han Ming was halfway through his sentence. Found it. It's here. At this moment, someone stood in the distance and shouted to everyone. The student found the last location jammer. He had just recovered from the excitement of being afraid, but about to be redeemed. He dug out the last location jammer from the soil. However, he took a big step back and suddenly stepped on something fleshy in the grass. The student stood still and looked over curiously. In the end, he saw. Yun Jian stood in the distance. She had just turned her head when she saw the student leaning over to look behind the grass. At the same time, the student screamed and sat on the ground. Then, he shouted crazily and screamed in fear. Chapter 1364. In the bushes, Lin Shuya's eyes were wide open. There seemed to be a trace of blood flowing from her eyeballs. Her lower body had a fatal wound from being bitten by wild beasts. She was suddenly placed in the bushes that could cover her body with her eyes wide open. The student who shouted just now happened to see a trace of blood flowing from Lin Shuya's wide-open eyes. She looked like a female ghost in a movie that died with a grievance. Lin Shuya's body was completely cold and stiff. This was the body of a dead person. Within an hour after death, the body would be completely stiff. This was also the reason why the shroud must be put on within an hour after the death of the elderly. Because once the person died and couldn't change into other clothes in time, it would be very difficult to change clothes after an hour. When the soul returned to reality, The moment the student saw Lin Shuya's body, he sat down on the ground and crawled away. Hearing the student's words, everyone around screamed. It was the kind of fear, horror, and indescribable fear that came from the bones. No! How is it possible? How could Shuya be dead? This is impossible. Impossible. Han Ming was so scared that he didn't dare to go forward and take a look. Lung Hanja heard the voice. Although his hands were trembling violently, he still went forward with a few braver boys to take a look. Before leaving, Lung Hanja said to Mu Ying, "Ying, don't be afraid. Just stand here." Before he finished, Mu Ying followed Yun Jian's footsteps and walked towards Lin Shuya's body. Dead. Dead. Really, really dead. Su Wei, who had quarreled with Lin Shuya on the cruise ship, was also scared. She sat down on the ground. "I want to go home." Seeing this scene, some of the boys cried and shouted that they wanted to go home. When Peeling and Xiang Chishi stepped back, they were so scared that their faces changed drastically. For a moment, the surrounding people cried and shouted that they wanted to go home. They were so scared that their faces turned pale. In contrast, Yun Jian and Mu Ying went up and turned the body out of the bushes. Then, they looked up and down a few times. Yun Jian looked at the body a few times and then stood up straight. "Yun Jian, did you find anything?" Lung Hanja strode forward. He couldn't help but look at Lin Shuya's body that looked like it was bitten by a beast. He asked Yun Jian. "No." Yun Jian's eyes flashed. She shook her head calmly and said, "It's here. The helicopter is here." At this time, the students saw the helicopter landing. At the same time, they saw the instructor's face. As soon as Instructor Zhou got off the plane, he saw the body over there. He instantly frowned and asked uneasily, "What's going on?" Some of the students immediately cried and cried of Instructor Zhou. After Instructor Zhou learned about the situation, his brows furrowed even tighter. Something happened to a student during military training. This was a very thing. But it had already. "Instructor, we want to go home." All the students were clamoring to leave. In the end, no one was willing to stay, except for Yun Jian. "I'm not leaving. The competition isn't over yet." Yun Jian spoke faintly, her expression nonchalant. No one could tell what she was thinking at the moment. No matter the result of the competition, Lin Shuya's death was confirmed to be caused by a beast. In addition, they encountered the swamp and the snakes later. No one wanted to stay here. Who knew what would happen if they stayed here? "Yun Jian, are you sure you don't want to leave?" Instructor Zhou was surprised. "Yes." Yun Jian nodded. "It's you? It's you. You must be the one who killed my cousin. You planned it, didn't you? If it wasn't you, how did you know about the location blocker? How did you know about the situation here? You must be the one who killed my cousin. You must be holding a grudge because of what my cousin did to you before." Han Ming pointed at Yun Jian and shouted crazily in front of the instructor. "Then why didn't you say that your cousin also had a dispute with the girl from Wulin Military School? If that's the case, the girl from Wulin Military School is more suspicious." Lin Wan helped Yun Jian to reply. "I didn't." Sui cried back. "I won't leave until the competition is over." Yun Jian's calm voice sounded again. It was as if the death of a person who was chattering by her side yesterday had no effect on her at all. It was as if death was normal to her. While the people around were afraid, they also became suspicious of Yun Jian. They were more surprised that she wasn't afraid at all. Chapter 1365. We're already at this point, and you're still not leaving, Yun Jian. "Shuya, Ken, you must have killed her. Only you would be at odds with Shuya, and you are the strongest. It's easy for you to take advantage of our absence. You are the biggest suspect. Instructor, hurry up and arrest her. Don't let her run away." Han Ming was so agitated that he couldn't control himself. If it weren't for the people around him, Han Ming would have pounced on Yun Jian. "All right, we'll talk about everything after the 7-day survival event tomorrow." Instructor Zhou glanced at Yun Jian and said, "Yun Jian, since you're not leaving, Min's City Military Academy will win the competition if you can hold on until noon tomorrow." Instructor Zhou said and called the other students to leave. As for Lin Shuya's body, no one dared to look at it. Inging, let's go. Lung Hanja waited for Instructor Zhou to finish speaking before he turned to grab Mu Ying's hand. However, Mu Ying dodged his hand. I'll stay with Yun Jian, Mu Ying said coldly. At this time, everyone was in a state of panic and fear. Everyone was rushing to leave, so no one noticed them. I want to stay with Yun Jian too. If Yun Jian doesn't leave, I won't leave either. Lin Wan was so scared that her face was frozen. However, she still pinched the corner of her clothes and refused to leave. She sincerely treated Yun Jian as a friend. Yun Jian was still on this island. Even if Lin Xia died on this island, and even if she didn't know who killed her, since Yun Jian dared to stay, she trusted her. Inging, no matter where you are, I'll stay with you. Lung Hanja made up his mind and refused to leave. When Peeling, who was not far away, originally wanted to leave with the rest, but when she heard Lung Hanja's decision, she also chose to stay. Mad. The students from Min City Military Academy are crazy. This place will kill people. There are still people who chose to stay and die. The Wulin Military Academy students were so scared that they stuttered. After saying that, they ran to the seats of the helicopter one by one, wanting to be the first to leave. After sending off all the students who had withdrawn from the competition, Instructor Zhou took a deep look at Yun Jian, then said to her and the few people who had stayed behind, "Tomorrow at 12 o'clock, I'll send a helicopter here to pick you up. Also, all the students will stay in a hotel near this island and wait for you. Then, I'll announce the results of this outdoor survival event." Okay. Yun Jian nodded. Those who stayed behind were Yun Jian, Mu Ying, Lin Wan, Wen Peeling, Lung Hanja, and Lung Hanja's brothers. Lung Hanja's friends were all seniors in the second and third years of high school. When they heard that Lung Hanja wanted to stay, they didn't want to leave. Although Han Ming was somewhat familiar with Lung Hanja, he was also scared that something like this had happened. He was the first to run into the helicopter and escape. On the sixth night, as usual, they piled up firewood for the night. However, because of the previous incident, the sixth night was guarded in groups of 3. The night passed uneventfully. The next day, when it was close to 10 o'clock in the afternoon, Yun Jian, who was resting on a thick tree trunk, suddenly jumped down from the tree. Yun Jian, where are you going? The instructor will send a helicopter to pick us up at 12 o'clock. Lin Wan saw that and quickly stood up to ask. She was afraid that Yun Jian would get lost and suddenly become a corpse like Lin Xia. I'm in a fun place. Yun Jian curled her lips and didn't say much. However, after hearing her words, everyone's eyelids twitched and they all followed her. No one saw the smile on Yun Jian's face. Chapter 1366. After the students left, the uninhabited island fell into silence once again. Although they had spent the night here after the incident, they still had to be extra vigilant in the last 2 hours. At this time, Yun Jian was unwilling to stay put. Although everyone was surprised, none of them made a sound. After the previous 2 performances, Yun Jian was undoubtedly the strongest among them. At the same time, no one knew what she was going to do. They didn't ask and just followed her. After walking for about half an hour, Yun Jian led everyone around the forest and came to the side of a small hill. There was a cave at the bottom of the hill. There seemed to be people walking in front of the cave. Yun Jian and the others were covered by the dense bushes and were quite far away, so the people walking in front of the cave didn't notice them. There are people here. Lin Wan covered her mouth and whispered so softly that no one could hear her if they didn't listen carefully. Don't make a sound if you see anything later. Yun Jian whispered to everyone. Her voice was very soft. However, the people around him still nodded very cooperatively. With that, Yun Jian led the group to move softly against the thick bushes and trees. The closer they got, the more they realized that the people standing in front of the cave were soldiers in military uniforms. One of them was the senior instructor who led the team a few days ago. Because they were in the field training camp, everyone liked to sit together at night and joke and talk, so everyone remembered the faces of every instructor. At this time, everyone covered their mouths. Only Yun Jian smiled. She wasn't surprised at all. Just as Lung Hanja, Lin Wan, when peeling, Lung Hanja and their friends covered their mouths and didn't make a sound. Yun Jian suddenly waved at Muing. Then, the two of them leaped out of the bushes in tacit understanding. With a flip, they walked toward the men in military uniforms standing at the entrance of the cave. The men in military uniforms were shocked when they saw Yun Jian and Muing. However, they were all agile soldiers. Lung Hanja, Lin Wan, when peeling, and Lung Hanja's friends who were a distance away saw Yun Jian and Muing dashing over and knocking out the men in military uniforms, one of whom was even their instructor, in a matter of seconds. Lung Hanja, Lin Wan, and the others gasped at this scene. They couldn't help but be shocked. Even the senior instructor was no match for Yun Jian and Muing. Just as they were shocked, Yun Jian and Muing rushed into the cave. Soon it was noon. Instructor Zhou brought all the students back to the uninhabited island. Because someone had died on the uninhabited island, and it was their companion who had died, all the students were panicking. Instructor Zhou, you must catch Yun Jian. She must be the one who killed my cousin, Han Mingjung said fiercely. Instructor Zhou narrowed his eyes and looked at the forest. Over there, someone came out. Someone couldn't help but shout. Is it Yun Jian and the others? They're still alive. Someone shouted again. But when everyone saw Yun Jian walking in front, Lung Hanja's friends were supporting a girl who had fainted, but they could still recognize who she was. Everyone was in an uproar. That's Lin Shuya? No, how is that possible? Isn't Lin Shuya dead? Instructor Zhou saw Yun Jian walking over. At the same time, when he saw Yun Jian calling the boys behind her to support Lin Shuya, his eyelids twitched. He couldn't help but be shocked. He thought Yun Jian was brave enough to insist on staying on this island. But who the hell could tell him? How did she manage to break his flawless plan? Chapter 1367. Instructor Zhou lost his composure as he was the first to run toward where Yun Jian and the others were coming from. Looking at Lin Shuya, who had fainted, Instructor Zhou held his forehead. The surrounding students were so shocked that they couldn't close their mouths. Han Ming, on the other hand, took 2 steps back. He was so scared that he screamed. As Shuya? No, isn't Shuya already? She's a ghost? Ah, a ghost. Han Ming was so scared that he took 2 steps back. He had an indescribable cowardice. However, someone had already noticed that Lin Shuya, who was supported by Lung Hanja's friends, had a body temperature. This proved that she was still alive. Lin Shuya isn't dead. She's still breathing. A few observant girls noticed that although Lin Shuya was still unconscious, the collar below her nostrils was still floating gently. This meant that she was still breathing. What's going on? I clearly saw Lin Shuya's corpse. How is this possible? The first boy who discovered Lin Shuya's corpse stood out and asked in shock, Are you referring to the fake corpse? If you had looked carefully, you would have easily seen that it was fake. Although it was made to look like Lin Shuya, its characteristics wouldn't have changed. At that time, you were only afraid because Lin Shuya had been missing for a whole day. When you saw the corpse, you instinctively thought that it was Lin Shuya. You didn't even see clearly whether she was real or fake. Muing stood beside Yun Jian and explained Yun Jian's doubts to everyone. Mu Ying's words revealed everything in one sentence. Indeed, after the incident, everyone didn't want to examine the corpse carefully. Even when Lung Hanja approached the corpse, he didn't dare to look directly at it. This also meant that everyone had missed the opportunity to discover the truth. Is it fun to be a spy? Yun Jian suddenly turned sideways and looked at Wen Peeling. She crossed her arms and narrowed her eyes. Wen Peeling, who was called out, was stunned. Instructor Zhou was stunned again. Instructor Zhou was the one who arranged this mission. He wanted to test the standards of this batch of freshmen. In fact, there were many flaws in this. For example, if the student who exclaimed at that time had taken a closer look and realized that Lin Shuya's body wasn't real, then there wouldn't have been so many students quitting the competition. This could be considered a test of a person's psychological quality. However, Instructor Zhou did not expect that Yun Jian had seen through all of this. Originally, Instructor Zhou was the creator of the game, but why did he feel that at this moment he was the confused passerby that was being played by Yunjian? Yunjian, what do you mean? Did senior sister Lingling offend you? How dare you call her a spy? Han Ming had a good impression of Wen Peeling, so when he heard Yunjian's words, he immediately shouted back. Huh, I really can't hide it from you at all. Then I won't pretend anymore. But I have to say, junior sister, you're really amazing. When Wen Peeling heard Yunjian's words, she was stunned for a few seconds. When she came back to her senses, she smiled at Yunjian and said, in order to pretend that it was real, she even went against her conscience to secretly look at Lung Hanja and acted like she was in love with him. Han Ming originally thought that Yunjian was randomly scolding people, but he didn't expect that Wen Peeling was really a him. All right, it's time to tell you. I did call Shuya out to knock her out, but I didn't install the location blocker. Plus, I've been with you all the time, so I didn't have the time to do that. As for Shuya, you definitely didn't notice when I knocked her out. Junior sister, I'm really curious. How did you find out that I was with Instructor Zhou? Wen Peeling smiled generously. She changed her pretentious attitude and asked Yun Jian openly. Yun Jian looked up and met Wen Peeling's eyes. Just as Wen Peeling, Instructor Zhou, and all the other students were looking straight at Yun Jian's red lips curled up, and she smiled faintly. The loophole is too big. It's hard not to find out. These words made the surrounding people feel a little ashamed. Chapter 1368. Wen Peeling and Instructor Zhou smiled awkwardly. It was obvious that they were embarrassed. However, it was rare for Instructor Zhou to meet someone as good as Yunjian. Ha! I thought that none of you would be able to pass this time. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? The few of you actually passed through directly. Ha! When you return to school this time, you guys will be in the elite class. Instructor Zhou smiled at Yunjian and Mu Ying and Lin Wan, who were standing beside Yunjian. There were only 3 people who passed this time. They were Yunjian, Mu Ying, and Lin Wan. Lung Hanja and his friends were seniors in their 2nd and 3rd year. Wen Peeling was also a senior in her 3rd year. None of them were in the elite class. In other words, the elite class was just organized and opened by Yunjian's cohort. Therefore, the first batch of people who were selected were Yunjian, Mu Ying, and Lin Wan. I can really enter the elite class? Oh my god, I can really... Yunjian, we can really enter the elite class. Mu Ying, I'm not dreaming, right? Lin Wan looked at Yunjian in disbelief, then looked at Mu Ying. She pointed at herself and was so excited that words couldn't describe it. Yunjian, so you already knew that the corpse was fake from the beginning? A girl in the same class as Yunjian asked. Hearing this, Yunjian replied softly, yes. Since you knew, why didn't you tell us? You're too much. You're deliberately trying to make our Wulin Military Academy lose the competition, aren't you? Sui stood in the distance. After hearing Yunjian's reply, she pointed at Yunjian and cursed. The students from Min City Military School did not blame Yunjian, because if it were not for Yunjian, their school would not have won against the students from Wulin Military School. But the students from Wulin Military Academy were different. This was originally a competition between 2 schools. The school that had more people passing would win. But now, it seemed that no one from Wulin Military Academy had passed. Therefore, Min City Military School's victory was assured. The students from Wulin Military Academy were not convinced. Sui took the lead to scold Yunjian. Hearing this, the students from Min City Military Academy couldn't hold it in anymore. However, before the students from Min City Military Academy could help Yunjian rebuke them, Yunjian spoke to Sui herself. Yes, I knew it from the beginning, but why should I tell you? Also, I can tell you very clearly that I deliberately want your school to lose the competition. If you have the ability, discover it yourself. As she spoke, she narrowed her eyes with a smirk. Yunjian's words caused the students from Min City Military Academy to agree. That's right, you Wulin Military Academy don't have the ability, and you still have the nerve to bark. Our Yunjian is powerful, so she can win. What about you? You don't have the ability, so what are you shouting for? Yes, yes, yes. If you have the guts, show us your ability. If you don't, then go away. The students from Min's City Military Academy started to fight back vigorously and soon gained the upper hand. At this moment, all the students from Min's City Military Academy were proud to be in the same school as Yun Jian. At this moment, Yun Jian was everyone's idol, the god that everyone worshipped, the god of killing. She lived up to her name. She was worthy of this title and had the ability to do so. Students from Wulin Military Academy, get lost, haha. All the students from Min's City Military Academy began to yell at the same time. Yun Jian is number one. Yun Jian is invincible. Yun Jian, Yun Jian, Yun Jian. For a moment, the curses and cheers resounded through the sky. Chapter 1369. The commotion lasted for half an hour until the students from Wulin Military School could not even lift their heads from the scolding. It was only then that the students from Min's City Military School surrounded Yun Jian and boarded the cruise ship rented by the instructor to return home. When Yun Jian closed her eyes to rest, her classmates would hand her a bottle of water or a piece of biscuit politely, asking her if she was thirsty or hungry. They were extremely courteous. It was like how actors were treated when they met their fans. When they returned to the military school, it was already the 3rd of September. The military school started on the 3rd of August. A month's time was neither too much nor too little, so the return trip happened to be the 3rd of September. The students from Wulin Military School returned to Anjing Province dejectedly. The students from Min's City Military School, on the other hand, surrounded Yun Jian as they went back. The freshmen who did not participate in the outdoor survival activities were resting at home. When Yun Jian and the rest of the group returned to the military school, the students from the 2nd and 3rd years had already started their classes as usual. Lung Hanja, Wen Peeling, and the rest of the seniors who were invited back to lead the team were given a week-long break. Yun Jian and the rest of the freshmen were given a week-long break as well. It was considered a benefit after a month of long-term military training. Of course, the official classes would begin a week later. In other words, classes would officially begin on the 10th of September when they returned to school. Yun Jian, Mu Ying, and Lin Wan moved their luggage to the classroom of Year 1, 2, first, and packed their bags to go home. The elite class had yet to be reorganized, so Yun Jian and the other two could not form a class. The school would start selecting students when school reopened. There were a total of 30 places. This meant that there were 27 freshmen in Year 1 other than Yun Jian and the other two who would enter the elite class. Yun Jian had also heard that the elite class had more practical training. This was to her liking as well. It was already 3 in the afternoon when she returned to the military school. After placing her luggage in the classroom, Yun Jian planned to return to Longmen City. She even went to greet Chu Ning and the rest before she left. Chu Ning shrieked the moment she saw Yun Jian, yelling, "Hey, Yun Jian, your performance during the military training has spread like wildfire. Now you're a celebrity in our school. Do you have to be so powerful?" He even defeated a senior instructor during the wilderness survival event. That last sentence immediately attracted the attention of a lot of people. Yun Jian? Is that slashing god from Team Monarch? It was said that during the military training, she had beaten up a senior instructor. He had even messed up an instructor's meticulous plan. The moment they returned to school, they were escorted back by their fellow freshmen. The surrounding students turned to look at Yun Jian, only to see Yun Jian grinning at Chu Ning. Then, she said, "I'll take my leave first. I'll treat you guys to supper next time." Chu Ning's eyes lit up at the mention of supper. She nodded and said, Okay, it's a deal." Yun Jian pressed her lips together and turned to leave with Mu Ying. Lin Wan's parents were civil servants who worked in the government while her grandfather was a lawyer. Their statuses were extraordinary. Lin Wan, on the other hand, was physically stronger and had yearned to be as cool as a policewoman since she was young, so she chose to study in the military school. Lin Wan's upbringing was good. Her parents came to pick her up right after school, so after bidding farewell to Yun Jian and Mu Ying, Lin Wan went home first. "Want to stay at my place for a night?" Yun Jian and Mu Ying walked to the school gate. Mu Ying cocked her head at Yun Jian and asked with a grin. Chapter 1370. After all, they had not seen each other for years. Yun Jian had agreed to Mu Ying's invitation immediately. When they were on the uninhabited island, Mu Ying had invited Yun Jian back to the Amazon forest for a stroll, and Yun Jian had agreed. Therefore, Mu Ying and Yun Jian had brought up the topic when they walked to the school gate together. Yun Jian, let's go back to the Amazon forest together tomorrow, Mu Ying asked. Mu Ying and Yun Jian were never joking. When they were on the uninhabited island, Mu Ying and Yun Jian's conversation was very normal, but it was treated as a joke. However, even if there was no one around, their conversation would still be the same and would not change. It was just that their conversation was overheard by their classmates passing by, and they could not help turning to look at them. Could it be that these two beautiful girls were fools? Yun Jian and Mu Ying were not bothered. Yun Jian replied Mu Ying immediately. See you the day after tomorrow in Longmen City. I'm going home. I haven't been back for a month. Mu Ying nodded at Yun Jian's reply. Yun Jian had already called Qin Yiru to tell her that she would not be going home tonight, but tomorrow. Ying, just as both of them walked out of the school gate and were about to turn into a fork in the road, Lung Hanja's loud shout came from behind them. Yun Jian and Mu Ying did not even have to turn around to imagine Lung Hanja's current state. Why are you following me? Mu Ying only asked softly when Lung Hanja ran up to Mu Ying. I'm worried about you guys, so I'm sending you home. Lung Hanja could not find a reason, so he came up with a random excuse. Yun Jian could tell how fake it was right away, but no one pointed it out. Up to you, Mu Ying said softly. Then, she walked side by side with Yun Jian, tacitly agreeing that Lung Hanja was following her. Lung Hanja was happy to see this. His Ying could finally let him follow her. He was already very satisfied with this. The Mu family was Mu Ying's family. Unlike outsiders, the Mu family lived together as a whole family. At the same time, the Mu family lived in an extremely luxurious villa. Mu Ying's grandparents were still in charge of the Mu family. Mu Ying's grandparents and uncles, as long as they were male relatives who lived in the main house with her, were all soldiers. Among them, Mu Ying's grandfather held the highest position. Mu Ying was truly the second generation of the military. Mu Ying's grandparents had 3 sons, all of whom were soldiers. Mu Ying was the daughter of the second son's family. She had a biological brother above her. They were both soldiers, and their status was not low. After Mu Ying brought Yun Jian home, Lung Hanja followed her in. Mu Ying's aunt stood in the middle of the villa. Mu Ying's aunt, Madame Yang, had always been at odds with Mu Ying. When Madame Yang saw Mu Ying bringing Yun Jian home, she was about to scold her when she saw Lung Hanja. Lung Hanja was the son of the Mu family. His status was even higher than the Mu family. Not only was he the second generation of an official, he was also the second generation of a rich family. Hanja is here? Quick, come in. The moment she saw Lung Hanja, Mu Ying's aunt, Madame Yang, ran over. Rura, look who's here. Your brother Hanja is here. Hurry up and come down. This was Madame Yang's ultimate goal. Madame Yang shouted up the stairs. Not long after, Madame Yang's daughter, Mu Ro, ran down the stairs. Yun Jian and Mu Ying were standing not far away from Lung Hanja. Madame Yang pulled her daughter, Mu Ro, over and pushed Mu Ying aside. She then looked coldly at Yun Jian before asking Lung Hanja about his well-being. Chapter 1371. As Madame Yang spoke, she couldn't help but push her daughter, trying to get her daughter to lean against Lung Hanja. Lung Hanja's status in the family was not something the Mu family could compare to. Although the Lung family and the Mu family had been friends for generations, the Lung family was not only stronger than the Mu family in terms of military power, but more importantly, the Lung family was also involved in the legal business and developed rapidly in business. Their legal business influence was even well known in Country Z. Madame Yang wasn't a fool. She understood and desperately wanted her daughter to get close to Lung Hanja, this treasure mountain. As for Mu Ying, Madame Yang had always disliked her. Even Mu Ying's daughter, Yun Jian, was hostile towards her. Mu Rou could be considered Mu Ying's cousin, but she didn't get along with Mu Ying. After hearing her mother's words, Mu Rou glared at Mu Ying fiercely before leaning towards Lung Hanja. "Brother Hanja, you haven't come to visit me in so long." "Sister Rou, who misses you so much," Mu Rou said coquettishly. At the same time, she wanted to pounce on Lung Hanja. However, before Mu Rou could pounce on Lung Hanja dodged. "Mu Rou, please respect yourself," Lung Hanja said coldly. Only when he was facing Mu Ying would his expression change. Mu Rou stood there awkwardly. Madame Yang's face instantly turned red. "Yun Jian, let's go to the backyard." Mu Ying didn't even look at Madame Yang and Mu Rou's expressions. She planned to bring Yun Jian directly to the backyard. Mu Ying had never looked at Madame Yang and Mu Rou in the eye. Mu Ying wasn't interested in these nominal aunts and cousins. She didn't have the mood to play tricks with them. If it weren't for her grandparents treating her well, Mu Ying would have moved out long ago. Backyard. "Mu Ying, stop right there. How dare you bring an outsider to the backyard? Are you crazy? The backyard is where our Mu family's own people train. You." When Madame Yang heard Mu Ying's words, her expression changed drastically. She rushed forward and blocked Mu Ying and Yun Jian's path, not allowing Mu Ying and Yun Jian to continue walking towards the back door of the villa. Outsiders are not allowed to enter? Why haven't I heard of this before? Didn't Lung Hanja go there often? His surname isn't Mu Ying. Hearing Madame Yang's words, Mu Ying's face darkened as she spoke softly. Lung Hanja was a little disappointed to hear Mu Ying call him by his full name, but he was also glad that his Ying mentioned him again. In contrast to Lung Hanja's disappointment, Madame Yang's expression darkened. That's right, the backyard of the Mu family was a specialized training ground. The Mu family was originally a military family. All the men in the Mu family were soldiers, and half of the women in the military were women. As the leader of a military family, Old Master Mu had built a special training ground for the Mu family to practice their skills in protecting the country. This simple training ground was located in the backyard of the Mu family. Madame Yang stopped Yun Jian purely because she didn't like Mu Ying, so she found a random reason to stop Yun Jian. However, Mu Ying's words stunned Madame Yang. Indeed, Madame Yang stopped Yun Jian because Yun Jian wasn't a member of the Mu family. However, Lung Hanja wasn't a member of the Mu family either, and it wasn't his first time entering the backyard training ground. Madame Yang was speechless. At this moment, Mu Ying had already pulled Yun Jian to the back door and opened it. Yeah. Be careful of the fan." The moment the back door opened, a girl who was training in the backyard couldn't hold back her fan and threw it straight at Yun Jian. The girl screamed in fright. Mu Ying's eyes flickered. Mu Rou and Madame Yang, who were standing in the distance, looked gloating when they saw this. Just as the fan was about to hit Yun Jian's delicate face, she suddenly extended her hand and caught the fan firmly without even looking up at its trajectory like a specter. Chapter 1372. Madame Yang and Mu Rou were obviously shocked. The Mu family members were usually in the military, but Madame Yang and Mu Rou were different. Madame Yang was born as a rich young lady, and she didn't want her daughter to fight and kill, so she wanted her daughter to take the high school entrance exams and college entrance exams. This was originally a very common thing, but it was not common in the Mu family. Other than the descendants of the Mu family who had no talent at all, the rest of the family members worked hard to become outstanding soldiers. Madame Yang actually envied the people in the Mu family from the bottom of her heart. Sometimes, when they went out, they even bragged about who was more powerful in the Mu family. But Madame Yang never thought that the friend that her most hated niece, Mu Ying, brought back would be so powerful. Madame Yang was dumbfounded. Like Madame Yang, Mu Rou was also dumbfounded. Mu Rou originally thought that she was the only one who didn't know how to use knives and guns. But now, there was Yun Jian who didn't know how to use knives and guns even more than her. Because Yun Jian looked soft and weak, Mu Rou automatically classified Yun Jian as an ordinary person. But she never thought that Yunjian would catch the fan flying towards her without even looking. If the fan hit Yunjian's face, the pain would be unavoidable, but there wouldn't be any major problems. Just as Madame Yang and Mu Rou were stunned, they saw Yunjian throw the fan back to the girl who had missed. Yunjian seemed to throw the fan lightly, but when the girl over there caught the fan, her hands and feet were in a mess for a while. "Let's go over there." Mu Ying pointed to a short and old wooden hut next to the training ground. "Okay," Yunjian softly replied. When the two of them walked over, Madame Yang and Mu Rou were still in shock. When Madame Yang and Mu Rou came to their senses, Mu Rou stomped her feet, then shouted at Yunjian's back, "You're so powerful. If you have the guts, stay later and spar with my eldest cousin." Everyone could hear the provocation and unwillingness in her words. Yunjian only laughed coldly, but didn't do anything else. Mu Rou, who stood rooted to the ground, could only stomp her feet. Lung Hanja, on the other hand, chased after Mu Ying. "Hey, you, I haven't asked your name yet. You actually caught my fan just now, and also, I almost couldn't catch it when you threw it back at me. Can you tell me, how did you train to be so powerful? Can you teach me?" The girl who accidentally threw the fan in front of Yunjian immediately ran over. When Yunjian and Mu Ying were about to enter the wooden hut, she caught up to Yunjian and stopped her, looking at her with a pair of curious eyes. "It's very simple." Yunjian didn't say much. She only said these 3 words, then entered the wooden hut with Mu Ying. I'm Ying Ying's little cousin. My name is Mu Shuang." "Big sister, can you tell me how to play this fan as well as you?" The girl who called herself Mu Shuang saw Yunjian enter the wooden hut. She followed up and asked. Mu Shuang was the youngest daughter of Mu Ying's uncle. She was 15 years old now and was already in the 3rd year of middle school. She had been mischievous since young, but was determined to become an outstanding soldier. When she saw Yunjian playing with the fan so well, she quickly ran over to ask. Yunjian smiled faintly, but didn't say much. Thus, Mu Shuang followed Yunjian and Mu Ying into the wooden hut. Inside the wooden hut, Mu Ying led Yunjian to a place where weapons were placed, then pointed at a shabby little desk in front of them, where all kinds of butterfly knives were placed. "These are the butterfly knives I've collected over the years. I know you like them. I thought I'd never see you again, but now, I'm giving them to you personally." Mu Ying turned to look at Yunjian, her eyes flashing with sincerity. Hearing this, Mu Shuang didn't know what to say. Chapter 1373. Something flickered in Yunjian's eyes when she heard Mu Ying's words. She went over and caressed the pile of butterfly knives on the small, shabby desk. Then there was a deathly silence. It was as quiet as still water. At this moment, even the talkative Mu Shuang and the suspicious Lung Hanja couldn't help but hold their breaths. Just when Mu Shuang and Lung Hanja thought Yunjian wouldn't speak, they heard Yunjian's calm and gentle voice. I like it a lot. Her voice sounded very ordinary, but compared to Yunjian's voice, it was a little lighter. It was a voice that could make one's imagination run wild. Mu Shuang's heart trembled slightly. "It's good that you like it." Mu Ying turned her head and smiled at Yunjian. The way they spoke was very ordinary, as if they were strangers who had just met. But the two of them gave Lung Hanja and Mu Shuang the same feeling as if they were old friends. Although they didn't know why they felt this way, Lung Hanja and Mu Shuang were completely shocked. Even they didn't know why they were shocked. It wasn't until a rough and hoarse roar came from outside the wooden hut that everyone reacted. "What? Little sister Mu Rou, someone bullied you?" Who? Who bullied you?" The male voice was slightly hoarse, as if he was shouting at the top of his lungs. Soon, Mu Rou's soft and pitiful voice came from outside the wooden hut. "No, no one bullied me." Cousin Mu Ying also didn't casually bring strangers into the backyard. When this voice came out, the few people standing in the small wooden house in the backyard could even imagine Mu Rou's pitiful appearance when she pretended to be herself. "What? Mu Ying brought strangers into the backyard? That's our Mu family's secret training ground. Does she want the whole world to know that we have a training ground? I'm going to teach her a lesson now." The rough male voice growled angrily. Then, they could hear the owner of the male voice walking towards them with large strides. "Let's go out first," Mu Ying said to Yun Jian with a slight frown. "Okay." Yun Jian nodded. When the two of them were about to walk out of the cabin, they heard Mu Shuang's surprised voice. "Why are there fewer butterfly knives here? Didn't I just count 21? Right after Mu Shuang spoke, Yun Jian parted the hem of her shirt and showed the butterfly knives strapped to her waist side by side for her to see. Mu Shuang was stunned. After a while, she came back to her senses and stared at Yun Jian with wide eyes. When did you hide the butterfly knife? I clearly saw that you didn't do anything just now. And how did you hide so many butterfly knives? It looks like you didn't hide anything at all. This is too powerful." Mu Shuang's words were exactly what surprised Lung Hanja. Yun Jian smiled. She didn't say anything and walked out of the cabin with Mu Ying. After Yun Jian and Mu Ying walked out of the cabin, they saw the owner of the rough voice standing in front of them. This person was about 20 years old. He was wearing a military uniform and looked quite handsome. Seeing an unfamiliar girl standing beside Mu Ying, the man in military uniform frowned. Mu Rou was standing beside him. After the man frowned, he turned to look at Yun Jian. He shouted at Mu Ying angrily, "Mu Ying, are you the one who brought this stranger into our backyard?" As he spoke, the man clenched his fists, causing them to emit cracking sounds as he spoke in a dignified manner. Chapter 1374. This man was Mu Shuang's biological older brother and also the biological son of Mu Ying's uncle. His name was Mu Rue. He was 28 years old and served as a special forces soldier in the army. Although Mu Rue was Mu Shuang's biological older brother, for some reason, he doted on his cousin, Mu Rou. In the past, whenever Mu Rou was bullied, he would act as if he had heard something terrible and rush up to protect Mu Rou. It was the same today. When Mu Rou said such a sentence in front of Mu Rue shouted at Mu Ying in a hoarse voice. Mu Ying brought Yun Jian out not because she wanted to deal with Mu Rue. "Yun Jian, I'll pack the remaining butterfly knives for you when you go home. Let's go to my room now," Mu Ying said as she led Yun Jian around Mu Rue. Mu Rue saw this. Because his biological younger sister, Mu Shuang, grabbed his arm and told him not to make things difficult for Yun Jian, he had already planned to stop. Just as he thought this, he heard Mu Rou cry softly to Madame Yang, "I don't have a biological older brother. You all have biological older brothers. Mom, why don't you give birth to a biological older brother for me?" Mu Ying was the daughter of the eldest son, second son, and third son of the Mu family. The second son and third son of the Mu family each had a boy and a girl. Only the eldest son had a girl. Mu Ying also had a biological older brother, but he didn't come back today. Mu Rou's cries were too much for the people present, especially Mu Rue. He was closer to Mu Rou. When he heard Mu Rou's words, he immediately stood in front of Yun Jian and Mu Ying. "Mu Ying, how did you bully younger sister Mu Rou just now? Or did you say that this friend of yours bullied younger sister Mu Rou? Hurry up and apologize," Mu Rue said as he clenched his fist. Seeing her brother, Mu Rue, bullying Mu Ying and Yun Jian, and knowing that her brother was very strong, Mu Shuang quickly ran away. She ran away, but she didn't really run away. Instead, she went to call for help. Seeing that Mu Rue stood up for her, Mu Rou, who was standing behind Mu Rue, sneered at Mu Ying and Yun Jian from an angle that Mu Rue couldn't see. Mu Rue was a Special Forces soldier and a National Key Special Forces soldier. He was very strong, more powerful than the average advanced Special Forces soldier, and was protected by the country. At the same time, Mu Rue would be qualified to represent Country Z and enter the hunting school in half a year's time. The number of Special Forces soldiers in Country Z who could enter the hunting school could be counted on one hand, but it was also the lifelong wish of countless Special Forces soldiers. To be selected as a candidate to enter the hunting school, there was no doubt that Mu Rue was very strong. After all, for a place like the hunting school, the death rate was extremely high if an ordinary person entered. There, The elimination rate could sometimes be as high as 80%. It was the world's most famous devil training base. This also fully explained Mu Rue's strength. Brother Mu Rue, this girl has some skills. Why don't you guys have a one-on-one fight? Oof. Let her see how strong you are. Mu Rue stopped pretending to cry. She looked up at Yunjian and said to Mu Rue smugly. After saying that, Mu Rue even bragged to Yunjian, "My brother Mu Rue is a special forces soldier who is about to represent the country and enter the hunting school." Do you know about the hunting school? It's the internationally famous special forces training base. There was an indescribable sense of bragging in her words. Hearing Mu Rue's words, Yunjian narrowed her eyes slightly. Mu Rue also raised his head slightly under Mu Rue's bragging, feeling a little proud. He was only 28 years old and already qualified to enter the hunting school. This was unheard of in the entire country Z. However, the Special Forces soldiers who were qualified to enter the hunting school were generally not younger than 40 years old. Just as Mu Rue was feeling proud, Yunjian smiled and said, "What a coincidence. I'm going to the hunting school too." It would have been better if Yunjian did not say anything. Once she said that, Mu Rue and Mu Rue were dumbfounded. What? Yunjian was going to the hunting school too? Her? She could go too? How old was she? She was at most 17 years old. Chapter 1375. The hunting school is not a place that young people like you can go to whenever you want. Moreover, you have to sign a life and death agreement before entering the hunting school. Do you know what a life and death agreement is? Signing a life and death agreement means that once you enter the hunting school, no matter what happens, the consequences will be borne by the student. During the training period, you can die at any time. Die. Aren't you afraid? When Mu Rue came back to his senses, he obviously did not believe what Yunjian said. For a moment, he forgot what he said earlier and spoke to Yunjian in a very agitated tone. To be able to enter and graduate from the hunting school was a great honor in the eyes of the special forces from various countries. Mu Rue was also proud to be qualified to enter the hunting school. However, now that a young girl suddenly stood in front of him and told him that she wanted to go to the hunting school, other than not believing it, Mu Rue was extremely displeased that Yunjian used something that was a great honor in his eyes to fool around. Therefore, when he spoke to Yunjian, Mu Rue's tone was rather agitated and had a hint of disgust towards Yunjian. Mu Rue said so much because he wanted Yunjian to back off and recognize herself. The hunting school was not a place that anyone could enter just because they wanted to. Not everyone could enter just because they felt that they were qualified. Just when Mu Rue thought that the life and death agreement he mentioned would scare Yunjian into backing off, he saw Yunjian curl her lips into a faint smile. In the next second, she stopped smiling and raised her cold eyes. "I know everything about the hunting school better than you do. As for the life and death agreement, if you want to use your strength to defy the heavens and disregard life and death, you don't deserve to say that." Yunjian's voice was not loud, but it was so clear that Mu Rue and everyone around felt that her voice was extremely loud. Everyone around them was stupefied by Yunjian's words. Don't make it sound like you've really been to the hunting school. You're just a little kid in your teens. You really know so much. If you have the ability... At this time, Mu Rue dropped her soft and weak disguise. She was interrupted halfway through her words. Ha ha ha. This little girl's words were quite interesting. I love it. An old man in his 70s wearing a military uniform walked over from afar. There were several people behind the old man, all of whom were dressed in military uniforms. At this moment, Mu Shuang, who had just run out, was holding Grandpa Shin's hand and walking over. Needless to say, he was Mu Ying's grandfather, Grandpa Mu. "Grandpa, look at my brother. He only knows how to bully people." Mu Shuang grabbed Grandpa Mu's hand and shook it. Then, she pointed at Mu Rue and said to Grandpa Mu, "Ha ha ha. Little girl, you said that you know more about the hunting school than my grandson, Rue. Then have you been to the hunting school?" Grandpa Mu smiled kindly at Mu Shuang. Then, He turned his eyes to Yun Jian and laughed. Mu Rui could be considered as Grandpa Mu's grandson. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Grandpa Mu was not as simple as he seemed. Yes. Yun Jian made a muffled sound from her throat. Little girl, standing in front of you is Grandpa Mu, one of the first batch of special forces to be sent to the hunting school to further his studies. He is the only one in that batch who successfully graduated from the hunting school. He is also the first student to graduate from the hunting school in our country. Even the principal of the hunting school, Chans, keeps in touch with Grandpa Mu. One of the people standing behind Grandpa Mu said, loudly, to Yun Jian. His words were full of pride and bragging. Even Grandpa Mu was affected by the atmosphere and felt a trace of pride in his heart. However, at this moment, Yun Jian, who was standing in front of everyone, suddenly smiled and looked straight at Grandpa Mu. She said calmly, Chapter 1376. Chans was the principal of the hunting school. Hearing Yun Jian's words, old Master Mu and the people standing behind him were all stunned. Even Mu Rui gasped. How dare Yun Jian talk about the principal of the hunting school like that? Did she know what she was saying? After they came back to their senses, Mu Rou and Mrs. Yang stood at a distance. Mu Rou questioned Yun Jian. Are you out of your mind to show off? How dare you talk about Principal Chans like that? Even my grandpa is respectful to Principal Chans. Who do you think you are? How dare you talk about Principal Chans like that? Mu Rou kept mentioning Principal Chans, but in fact, Mu Rou did not even know what Principal Chans looked like. It was only because old Master Mu used to talk about Principal Chans in front of his children and grandchildren in a respectful tone. Therefore, Mu Rou played along with old Master Mu's favorite words and talked back to Yun Jian. Yun Jian chuckled softly at that. It was a cold sneer. Seeing this, old Master Mu's heart skipped a beat. Just as Mu Rou finished speaking, old Master Mu looked at Yun Jian in shock. Without caring about Mu Rou, he continued, How did you know that Principal Chans was assassinated by a high-level assassin? He looked at Yun Jian in shock with his mouth slightly agape. This scene stunned the people standing behind old Master Mu. It had been many years since old Master Mu showed such a shocked expression. And most importantly, the rude words that the little girl had just said were actually the truth. Is it that hard to find out? Yun Jian glanced sideways at old Master Mu. She pursed her lips slightly and smiled. If old Master Mu only treated Yun Jian as an interesting child at the beginning, he had to look at her seriously now. To the average person, it was very difficult to find out about this. However, to the people in the underworld and the industry, this was not a secret at all. It was the first time that Grandpa Mu had met a little girl whom he could not see through. He narrowed his eyes. Grandpa Mu suddenly burst into laughter to ease the awkwardness. Ha ha, you little girl, interesting. It was really too interesting. That's right, Principal Chans was indeed assassinated by a group of high-level assassins some time ago. I didn't expect a junior like you to know about this. Old Master Mu did not plan to get to the bottom of Yun Jian's story in front of everyone. He even changed the way he addressed Yun Jian from a little girl to a little girl. If it had been anyone else present, they would have asked Yun Jian everything. However, Grandpa Mu was already in his 70s. At his age, he had experienced a lot. Naturally, he understood that the more mysterious something was, the more it was best not to get to the bottom of it. He wouldn't do anything that would bring trouble to himself. Grandpa Mu's words made Mu Rou feel ashamed. After all, Mu Rou was the first one who stood out to refute Yun Jian. Mu Rui didn't expect that Yun Jian would know so much about something that even he didn't know. For the first time, he felt that he had met his match. And the other party was a girl who was not even 18 years old yet. Little girl, you're so interesting. You must stay with us for a few more days. I heard that the military academy has a 7-day break, right? Why don't you stay with us for the next few days? Grandpa Mu tried to persuade Yun Jian to stay. It was a very ordinary way to persuade someone to stay. However, when it came from Grandpa Mu's mouth, the meaning was very different. Grandpa Mu had a great military record when he was young. He was even a general. Even though he had retired now, he was still very prestigious. Most importantly, those who could be invited by Grandpa Mu to stay were either elites with amazing military records or famous military talents. However, it was the first time he had seen someone invite a teenage girl in such a solemn tone. Therefore, everyone around was surprised, especially those standing behind Grandpa Mu. Chapter 1377. Yun Jian's rejection was straightforward, leaving no room for negotiation. Yun Jian's rejection left everyone dumbfounded. Even old Master Mu himself was a little surprised. In the past, people could not wait to curry favor with him. But today, he personally invited Yun Jian, but Yun Jian turned him down on the spot. This was something that had never happened before. Slightly shocked, old Master Mu swallowed his saliva. Then he swallowed and said to Yun Jian, "Little girl, you must come to my house when you're free." Okay. Yun Jian nodded this time. Mu Ying was at the Mu family's house, so she would definitely come over. "Yun Jian, let's go." Mu Ying pulled Yun Jian's hand and walked towards her room in the villa. After taking 2 steps, Mu Ying thought of Lung Hanja again. She turned to look at Lung Hanja expressionlessly and said to him, "You can leave first." After that, she went to Yun Jian's room with her. Old Master Mu and the others who were standing on the training ground were totally ignored. Fortunately, old Master Mu knew Mu Ying well. As Mu Ying's friend, Yun Jian must be the same. Let's go. Let's go." Old Master Mu smiled awkwardly and then left with his people. Mu Ro, who was standing at the same spot, stomped her feet. Madame Yang pressed her shoulder. Seeing that Mu Rue had left, Mu Ro said to Mrs. Yang angrily, "Mom, I'm so angry." Don't worry, don't worry. Humph, I don't believe that I can't handle these 2 girls." Mrs. Yang snorted and comforted her daughter. She looked at Yun Jian and Mu Ying's figures and wondered why she was so angry. Yun Jian and Mu Ying had just taken 2 steps when a sweet girl's voice came from behind. "Sister Mu Ying, wait for me." As soon as she said that, Yun Jian caught sight of a small figure hugging Yun Jian and Mu Ying's shoulders. Yun Jian did not avoid it. It was Mu Shuang. Mu Shuang and Mu Ying were very close. She also liked Yun Jian. "I was the one who called Grandpa here just now. I was afraid that Annie and the others would trick my brother to bully you guys together." Mu Shuang stood between Yun Jian and Mu Ying happily as she hugged both of their shoulders. Mu Shuang was only 1 year younger than Yun Jian's current body. Her actual age was 2 years younger. However, Mu Shuang gave people the feeling that she was a little sister who should be protected. Even Mu Ying, who had a cold personality, could not help but reach out and rub Mu Shuang's head. She said softly, "Good girl." He. Mu Shuang lowered her head shyly. Then, she turned to Yun Jian and asked, "Sister, can I sleep with you and Sister Mu Ying tonight?" "Up to you." Yun Jian threw her 2 simple words. "Yay, that's great. I'll go get my blanket." Mu Shuang ran to her room energetically. The Mu family had dinner together as a family. Other than Madame Yang and Mu Ro, everyone else was especially friendly to Yun Jian. Before going to bed, Mu Ying's current mother, Tian Fong Fong, deliberately changed the bed sheets and quilts. She even asked Yun Jian if she was not used to it and told her to tell her everything. She was extremely polite. 1:30 a.m. Yun Jian, Mu Ying, and Mu Shuang were lying on the bed. They were not asleep and were still chatting. Although they were chatting, it was actually Mu Shuang who was talking the whole time. "Sisters, I feel that you're both amazing. You're my role models," Mu Shuang said a lot. Just as she was about to say something, Yun Jian suddenly covered her mouth. In the dark, she saw Yun Jian make a shushing gesture. Mu Shuang immediately shut her mouth. Just as she shut her mouth, she heard a sound from the corridor outside. It was so soft that if one did not listen carefully, one would not be able to hear it all. "Mom, are they really asleep?" "They must be asleep. I saw them lying on the bed to rest at 9:30 a.m. How could they not be asleep now? It's been almost 4 hours. Be quiet. Don't let anyone hear you." Chapter 1378. If it wasn't for Yun Jian covering Mu Shuang's mouth in time, Madame Yang and Mu Rou, who were sneaking in from the corridor outside the bedroom, would have definitely heard Mu Shuang's voice. Madame Yang and Mu Rou might have immediately retreated. But at this moment, Madame Yang and Mu Rou didn't hear any sound, so they thought that Yun Jian and the other two had really fallen asleep. Yun Jian covered Mu Shuang's mouth, and Mu Shuang was very obedient and didn't make any sound. Even her breathing slowed down a lot. Then, about 30 seconds passed outside the corridor, but there was no sound of Madame Yang and Mu Rou's voices. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes slightly. She knew that Madame Yang and Mu Rou must have their ears pressed against the bedroom door to check if the three of them were really asleep. Mu Shuang blinked. Although she didn't know what the situation was, she was willing to follow Yun Jian's instructions. 30 seconds later, Madame Yang, who was leaning against the bedroom door, finally confirmed that Yun Jian and the other two were really asleep. Thus, Madame Yang's voice sounded again. Later, after I use a knockout powder to knock them out, you guys quickly sneak in and get it over with quickly. Remember, after this, you have to pretend that this place was stolen by thieves. Those three women were just an accident during your theft. Madame Yang used a low voice to speak to the people in the shadows. Her voice was very soft, so soft that Mu Shuang couldn't hear it at all. However, Yun Jian could clearly hear every word that Madame Yang said. Mu Ying could also hear every word that Madame Yang, who was standing in the corridor at this moment, said. "Mom, hurry up. I already can't wait to see the three of them fall from grace." Especially Mu Ying, who told her to pretend to be cold and aloof all the time. I want to see if Brother Hanja still wants her after he finds out that she has lost her virginity. Brother Hanja is mine. No one can steal it. After a while, Mu Rou's voice could be heard. The more she spoke, the more excited she became. In the end, Yun Jian heard Madame Yang tugging at Mu Rou and whispering to Mu Rou, "Lower your voice. Do you want to wake them up?" Then there was no sound from the corridor, but Yun Jian knew that the silence was the prelude to the arrival of danger. Yun Jian released the hand covering Mu Shuang's mouth. She turned over and jumped off the bed, but strangely, she didn't make any sound. After she got off the bed, she walked over to the coffee table next to Mu Ying's window and took out 3 pieces of tissue. Then she silently walked back to the bed and handed the other 2 pieces of tissue to Mu Shuang and Mu Ying under the moonlight that shone through the window. After Mu Shuang and Mu Ying took the tissue, Yun Jian cut her piece of tissue in half and skillfully stuffed it between her nostrils. Mu Shuang and Mu Ying did the same.